I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Scottsdale Unified School District. It is Tuesday, February the 12th, and the time is 5:10. Last board meeting, I mentioned that we're going to change things up a bit, and rather than have a board member lead us in the pledge, I will be randomly selecting some of our students each meeting to come and at the podium and lead us in the pledge. And tonight, if I could have Nicholas Babby from Desert Canyon Elementary School and Leo Morrow from Kiva. I am not going to share why they're here. I'll leave that for later because I don't want to steal Dr. Peterson's thunder. But if we could all stand, these young men will lead us in the pledge. Thank you both very much. You can have a seat. Okay, I'll give it to you in a minute. Okay, if I could have a roll call starting with Board Member Jackson.
George Jackson.
Barbara Perleberg.
Denny Brown.
Pam Kirby. At this time, we have the approval of the agenda. Do any of the board members have any changes to the agenda? None? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Board Member Sneed moves to approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Board Member Perleberg seconds the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved with the vote of 5-0. All right. Student and staff recognition and celebrations. Superintendent Peterson?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. First, I'd like to welcome the full house tonight. This is a great thing to see. We have a lot of wonderful celebrations that we are going to begin with. First, I would like to introduce the Arizona Business and Education Coalition, ABEC, as they're commonly known. And Suzanne Carlson is here, and there's going to be a presentation along with Dr. McNeil.
Good evening, Madam President, governing board members, Dr. Peterson, Sandra, and guests. It is my pleasure to introduce Susan Carlson with the Arizona Business and Education Coalition. She has come bearing gifts of good work. I'm going to ask that the proud principal from Pima Elementary School, Amy Uchas, come to the podium. Thank you, Amy. And Dr. Von Echten, if you can help Susan with unveiling the banner here while I talk. Pima Elementary School has recently been recognized as an Arizona all-subject higher performing school performer for the second consecutive year by the National Center for the Education Achievement, or in other words known as the NCEA, a department of the ACT, in partnership with the Arizona Department of Ed. Pima has been labeled a higher performer in one or more content areas tested by the Ames test. Across the state, only 141 schools has shown this type of growth in any type of student performance. Of the 141 schools recognized, only 9 across the state are considered higher performers in all content areas tested. These 9 schools are officially labeled 2012 Arizona All-Subject NCEA Higher Performing Schools. We are very proud of Pima, and let's give them a great round of applause.
I just want to say congratulations. This is a goal of ABEX, is to focus on those schools that are actually using best practices. They've been compared with each other. They've been compared with like demographics. So these schools are compared with like demographics and are clearly doing yeoman's work in terms of closing the achievement gap. And we congratulate the district and we congratulate the school. Thank you.
And I would like to echo that. Thank you, ABEC, for that recognition. And Pima, well-deserved. You guys are doing great things there, so keep up the good work. Carla Partridge has a recognition for us.
Good evening, Madam President, Governing Board members, Dr. Peterson and Sandra. Last month I came to you and I shared with you the news that our own superintendent, Dr. Peterson, was named a finalist in the E-News Tech Savvy Superintendent Awards program. Well, I have an update tonight, and eSchool News has announced that Scottsdale Unified School District Superintendent Dr. David Peterson has been named a winner, and it is in its 2013 Tech Savvy Superintendent Awards program. Dr. Peterson was one of 8 national winners of the award and the only winner in Arizona. In order to be considered for the award, candidates must demonstrate exemplary vision for the use of technology to improve all facets of education and show outstanding leadership in working to make this vision a reality. Dr. Peterson has quickly moved technology to be a key component of the district's strategic plan, with a stated goal that focuses on increasing student achievement and access to digital learning resources. There are numerous examples that demonstrate his visionary leadership and laser-like focus to leverage technology as a key ingredient of the district's strategic initiative. He and the other 2013 winners will be honored by the American Association of School Administrators in the February 2013 issue of eSchool News. And due to the budget constraints and to model the use of technology, the recognition event will be accomplished via internet webinar. Congratulations, Dr. Peterson.
Thank you. Thank you, and truly, that's not a recognition for me. That's a recognition for the team, because we have an incredibly strong team in Scottsdale schools, and every single day they make a difference. I come up with some crazy ideas, and those guys say we can do it. And so, thank you guys for saying you can do it, because I appreciate that. Next, I'm proud to introduce Dr. Karen Benson, who's going to come up and introduce our wonderful spelling bee winners. That's a treat to have that in our district every year, and we've got some wonderful winners of our district spelling bee.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam President, Governing Board members, Dr. Peterson and Sandra. At this time, I'd like any of our spellers, our top 6 spellers who are with us this evening, to join me at the podium. You can come on up. We did have our top 6 spellers all be boys this year. On January 25th, on January 25th, 25 elementary and middle level students from across our district gathered at Arcadia High School to compete for the title of District Spelling Bee Champion. Tonight, we'd like to congratulate A.J. Cavinus, I don't believe A.J. is here with us this evening, a 6th grade student at Copper Ridge School who took home the first place trophy, and Leo Morrow, who is here, you can wave Leo, a 4th grader at Kiva Elementary School. As Leo finished 2nd. Per the B rules, the top 6 competitors from the SUSD move on to the Regional Spelling Bee, which is later this week, Friday, February 15th, hosted at the Paradise Valley School District. The other 4 SUSD representatives that qualified, some of them are here with us tonight. Nicholas Babby, do you want to wave, Nicholas? Nicholas is a 4th grader at Desert Canyon Elementary School. Nick Bosch, 8th grader at Cheyenne Traditional School. Benaya Shamard, a 5th grader at Tonalea. And Lucas Cruz, an 8th grader at Desert Canyon Middle School. And before I ask them to come up here and say their names for practice one more time in front of a microphone, because we are getting ready to send them later this week, I did want to extend a special thanks to all of the persons that participated in the bee this year. Of our 25 spellers, it is the best demonstration of sportsmanship and kindness I've seen yet at any of the bees I have been at. They were high-fiving each other. Even when they missed, they were helping each other try to figure out what they missed in the misspelled words when they returned back to their chairs. It was a remarkable demonstration of kindness on the part of all of our spellers. Very, very proud of their behavior and conduct on that day. Gentlemen, would you like to come up one time, say your name and your school, practice, and then I'll give you your certificate. Ready? Here you go. Ready?
I'm Nicholas Babby from Desert Canyon Elementary School, and I got 3rd place in the spelling bee.
I'm Leo Morrow. I'm in 4th grade at Kiva Elementary School, and I got 2nd place in the spelling bee.
I'm Lucas Cruz from Desert Canyon Middle School, and I got 6th place in the spelling bee.
Again, thank you for recognizing our spellers. They have another photo op in the hallway.
And we do, again, just want to say, good job, boys. Next, I'd like to have Carolyn Ripp introduce Margaret Cerna, our wonderful principal at Tavon Elementary School, and a great recognition regarding the Azella program and a wonderful contest that our students have won.
I am so proud, Governing Board President and members of the board, Dr. Peterson and Sandra, to be able to introduce you to Margaret Cerna, proud principal of Tavon, who always has put art first, along with all the academics. Tavon is an A school. And not only am I introducing Margaret Cerna, but I'm introducing our students' teacher, Cheryl Hunter, because I think teachers are the power behind us all. So here they come.
You ready? Come on up here so they can see, and you can hold this up. Go walk over there and show it to them, okay? Okay. Dr. Peterson, our board president, Sandra, I would like to introduce you to Lorena Martin, a third grade student at Tavon Elementary School. I would also like to translate this in Spanish for her parents are here, and I'm going to translate for them, okay? Felicidades a Lorena Martin y su familia. Por Lorena es una... Stand up, Mama. Lorena es una estudiante en Escuela Tavon en el tercer grado. Her entry in the Azella Art Contest was used as a cover art on the Azella documents. A certificate in recognition of her winning entry will be given to Lorena Martin, Scottsdale Unified School District, and Tavon Elementary School. Additionally, the 24-inch by 36-inch reproduction was printed and displayed and will continue to be displayed at the Office of the English Language Acquisition Conference, ELL's Transitioning to Tomorrow, that was held in December. So, estamos muy contentas, señora. Felicidades. And just to let you know, she was the #1 winner from the entire state. So, okay, give that to your mama. I'd also like to introduce you to her teacher, Cheryl Hunter, that really truly believes in the arts and fosters it in all the content areas. So good job, Miss Hunter. Okay. So here you go, Miss Lorena. Okay, and another one. And another one. Okay, and this one's for school. Okay. So, thank you, everyone.
Thank you all very much.
She's making us famous.
We are very, very proud of the wonderful things happening at Tavon. They are an A school, and we're very happy with their A. So good job, Tavon. We're very proud of them. Next, I've asked Cliff McKenzie to come up to introduce an outstanding honor that we have. I'm hoping that I will, and Cliff's not here. Steve Harris is here. Is Steve here? Steve's going to come up. I'm hoping that I get the contract rights to be able to be the agent for this individual, because we've got a wonderful honor and a great future ahead of one of our students.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Good evening, Madam President, members of the school board, Dr. Peterson, Sandra. It's my pleasure to recognize Mark Andrews. Mark is a junior at Desert Mountain High School. He's an outstanding student, two-sport athlete, and person. He is currently a starter on the basketball team that is ranked 5th in Division I entering this week's state tournament. So good luck, Mark, this week. Mark has been a starter on the varsity football team for the past 2 years as a wide receiver. This past season, Mark has earned many awards, including ESPN Top 150 in the country, Scott.com Top 100, 24/7 Top 100, invitee to Top 100 Under Armour Combine, which is a very prestigious combine. 2012 Arizona Football Coaches Association Division I All-State. 2012 All-City. 2012 Division I Section 3 Player of the Year, and the Arizona Central Big School Player of the State of Arizona for the year. Additionally, Mark is a type 1 diabetic and is a volunteer for the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. He has participated in Walk for the Cure and Cure Type 1 Diabetes, raising $5,500. He has spoken at Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation annual board meeting. He also is a school mentor at the elementary, middle, and high schools to speak with newly diagnosed kids or kids struggling with diabetes. Going into his senior year, he is ranked the 71st best player in the country by Rivals.com. More importantly, he is a tremendous role model, a young man of character, and a true inspiration to our community. Congratulations, Mark.
Good job, Mark. It's truly nice to see great things going on to great individuals. So we're very, very proud of you. And just remember, we want part of that contract down the road. So good luck to you, and good luck to you in the basketball playoffs coming up. We got big hopes for you guys, so good luck. Not only are our students doing incredible things, but our teachers are doing some incredible things. And I have Miss Wendy Allen, who's going to come up and introduce some of our newly nationally board certified teachers that we are extremely proud of here in Scottsdale schools.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, and Dr. Peterson and Sandra. National board certification is a very rigorous, prestigious process. We recently had 12 Scottsdale teachers certify and 1 teacher renew their certification. It's important to recognize that funding has been provided by the Bill and Sue Jenkins National Board Certification Educator Scholarship Program, and to thank the Scottsdale Unified School District Foundation for the grants. The grants support teachers and assist them in pursuing the requirements in earning certification. Additional funding comes from the Arizona K-12 Center and the Department of Education. Tonight, I've asked Dr. Thomas and Dr. Forlis to help me present the plaques as I recognize the teachers. The newly certified teachers are Kelly Ackridge at Laguna. Would you please come up? Abby Bobbitt, Laguna.
The same store.
Thank you. Karen Brisbane, Kiva. Steve Geislinger, Arcadia High School. Rebecca Hirschfeld, Cochise. Danette Imafadana at Chaparral. Athena Kalia Mojave Middle School. Nancy Lack, Redfield. Kay Nichols, who retired from Redfield. Stephanie Shammy, Laguna. Christina Haas Smith, Pima. I don't see Christina, so we'll hang on to this for her. John Tribbiano, Desert Mountain High School. Karen Weeble, Yavapai. And Mary Zongalowitz, on the Career Ladder staff at the MDA, renewed her certification. Congratulations again to all of our honorees. And we will have photos for you out in the lobby. So if you don't mind, step out for your photo opportunity.
That is truly a great accomplishment and honor that our teachers have been able to work on. It's a 2 to 3 year process, so we're very, very proud. I think we are right over 50 teachers now that are nationally board certified in Scottsdale schools, so we're quite proud of the work they've done. Finally tonight, our final celebration this evening, Dr. Sackos is going to be introducing some of our individuals from the Scottsdale Unified School District Foundation that have done a wonderful job of providing mini grants not only for our National Board Certified teachers, but for the other programs that we have here in Scottsdale schools.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson and Sandra, I have to admit, those are tough acts to follow. Lots of celebrations tonight. But with that, we are going to be celebrating tonight not only the generous donation from the SUSD Foundation for our mini grants, but the recipients of those mini grants who put quite a bit of time in writing grants to bring innovation and creativity to the classroom and utilizing those monies to continue to enhance academic achievement and individual experiences for our youth. So with that, we have two foundation board members here tonight. I'm going to invite them both up. Our former mayor is our chair, Ms. Manross. Come on up, Ms. Manross. And Jim Kramer, who's also a board member. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Manross and Mr. Kramer. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you very much for having us here tonight. And before I start, thank you for letting me address you to the entire board and Dr. Peterson and to Sandra. Dr. Peterson, congratulations. been kind of waiting to hear about that contest. I really appreciate it. It's a terrific honor for our school district that you were one of 8 nationally that is so recognized. So thank you for what you do for us. I am here, as Melissa said, on behalf of our entire school board, and I have Jim Kramer with me, who's a member of our school board. He is Vice President and Chief Information Officer of Scottsdale Healthcare and has been on our board at least as long as I have. Longer, right? Longer than, yeah, he's been on at least 5 years. So we're here tonight just to take a moment to recognize those who are going to be receiving our classroom mini grants. We've been doing this program for several years now, at least 6 years, and this year we're awarding 35 grants totaling $30,000. And since 2007, when we began the program, we have given out about $240,000 in this program to deserving teachers and administrators in the district. And we've worked hard to try to be able to address all the schools. I think we've addressed every school at least once in this program, and that's our goal, to make sure that we're being fair and that we're trying to help all different facets of our district. The grant recipients will use these funds for many programs, as some of you know. The robotics program, the Anytown program, the Unitown program, positive behavioral intervention programs that you put on, music therapy support programs, early reading, pre-reading programs, art programs, creating gardens, and a lot of other terrific things that our teachers are doing for our youth. So before I go too much further, let me just turn around. As you all know, I just really apologize. I don't like to have my back to the audience here, so I hope you all understand back there. We're going to go ahead and give out the grants. I'll give the names, and Jim will hand out the certificates. Thank you for allowing us to be here to do this. I think our teachers at every opportunity deserve to be thanked and to be recognized for what they do for all of our children. So thanks for that. Okay. Excuse me, back to... You're a bigger audience. You're all out here. We'll begin with the elementary schools. The first certificate goes to Shannon Henley. Here it comes. I thought Shannon was coming. I guess not. Okay, we will hold on that one from Cherokee. Robin Wynn and Rhoda Hunter from ECC, Choya. Okay, Robin. So Rhoda's here to get the certificate. Yeah, get the certificate for Robin. Okay, the next is Chris Picard, Desert Canyon. Next is Ronnie Schultz and Linda Tardy from Hoelcom. The next is Amy White, Laguna. Okay, Amy couldn't be with us. I understand that. Brooke Williams from Navajo. I don't see Brooke, so we'll get that to her. Diana Campbell from Navajo. Ellen Meltzer from Pima. Kimberly Maryhugh from Pima. I don't see her. Okay. Amanda Joseph from Pueblo. How about Chris Edwards from Pueblo? Okay. Allison Stone from Redfield. Rachel Hedrick from Redfield. Sheila Hove from, or I'm not sure how you pronounce it, I apologize, from Sequoia. Hove? Okay, great. Sheila Hove. Jamie McCrensky from Sequoia. The principals here, they always come through. Okay. Anna McCrory Tavan. Josephine Perez Tonalea. Michelle Piazza, Tonalea. Guess she couldn't make it. Mary Simpson and Amy Reed from Yavapai. Congratulations, thank you. Thanks for your service, yeah. Danielle Foley from Copper Ridge. Danielle. Congratulations, thank you for your service. Susan Spickler, Jamie Lee Frank, and Pat Kennedy from Mojave. Guess they didn't make it here tonight. Marilyn Kagan, Chaparral. Thanks, Marilyn. Stephanie Quirin, Coronado. Oh, okay. Yeah. Told you principals always come through. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for doing that. Thank you. Yeah. Sharon McCole from Desert Mountain. Thank you. Thank you. Jackie Fox, Special Education. You here, Jackie? Okay. Tony Davey, Special Education. Okay. Bonnie Steinberg, also Special Education. Christine Irwin, Service Learning. Chris Asmussen and Terry Kellen for Anytown. Katie Asali and Joe Baca for Unitown. And Eric Curlin, Alternative Education. He could not be here. Thank you all for being so attentive, and we do appreciate it. Thank you again, Board, for the opportunity you give us to help support your efforts. Thanks.
And again, we'd just like to thank the foundation for making this all possible. To donate $250,000 worth of mini grants over the last several years is truly an accomplishment. We want to thank the foundation for that. That finishes our staff recognitions and celebrations for this evening. Madam President?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Peterson. At this time of the meeting is when we have our public comment, which is the public's opportunity to address the board on any item not on tonight's agenda. Ms. Como, do I have all of the cards? We have one card tonight. If I could have Ms. Pam Cruson. Oh, there you are. As a reminder, you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's Pam Cruson, 4138 East Lakeside. Madam President, Board, and Dr. Peterson, Ms. Como, thank you. Actually, I'm here tonight to thank you all. I know you'd appreciate that. I went to the District Dance Festival last month, and it got me to thinking it was a wonderful affair. And I think that the parents and the teachers and the principals and the board and certainly the district administration need to be congratulated for their years of support for comprehensive fine arts education in the district. We're one of the few districts that has the breadth and depth that we have, and it's due to lots of cooperation. When we moved here in '71, the district had just finished building the band rooms at each of the schools. And it came about because they just opened the Taj Mahal Saguaro High School. And they said, you know, if you can spend all that money there, you could at least build us band rooms. So they all the elementary schools had band rooms. There was one string player in the district, Bill Bitter, who's still down at Gilbert as their music director. And Harry Woolard, we found out, a bunch of parents had started a string program at Cocopah. He went down to Tucson and he rented violins and he rented cellos and he brought them back up and he persuaded his principal to give him a chance. And by George, within, I think it was 2 years, he had to have a string teacher. And he was a band teacher, but he had string background, so he did a good job. And dance came along a few years later when Scottsdale High closed. Irma Griffin took over. But she was the only one. So parents said, okay, we want dance at the rest of the schools. Those kids need that opportunity too. And they got it. And the enthusiasm and the kids, all shapes and sizes, and just having a great time and learning. And 1 minute, I'll get out. No, that's all right. I'm through. But it's you know, it's non-generational. It's no ethnicity problems, no social. They have a great time with the arts, and thank you. I hope it can continue. I know it can, because there are enough people in this community and district that want it. And thanks again.
Okay, at this point, superintendent's comments. Dr. Peterson?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. The first part of my comments, I would like to invite up two board members that are here visiting this evening. We have Norm Colbert and Irv Heimbuck. They are from our feeder school that we go to, EVIT. EVIT is made up of 10 school districts throughout the east part of the valley. And Norm has been on the board at EVIT since their inception there, 18 years. He's taking over as president this year. He represents District 1, which is the southern and the western portions of our district. And then Irv has been on the board for 6 years, and he represents District 5, which is the northeastern portion of our school district. We're one of the few districts that has 5 of the school districts. We have 2 actual districts within us that service EVIT. So I'd like to invite Norm and Irv up just to say a few words, because later this evening on the consent agenda we will be voting on the IGA to continue with our agreements and our working relationship with EVIT.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson, Pam, President Pam, and the rest of the board members. Thank you for the opportunity to come up and meet you and say a few words. Basically, most of you are aware of what EVIT is, but we're a career technical education. We like that word better than vocational, but that's what I grew up with, so sometimes it's hard to remember that transition. But one of the things I like to point out is that we've come a long ways since shop and auto mechanics and shade tree mechanics and so forth. And think about your car today, and do you want somebody that doesn't have a good technical background working on a vehicle that has more computers in it than some of us have in our homes just to keep the thing running? So it is truly career technical education. One of the things we do is we work directly with industry quite closely. Industry lets us know what they need in workers, and we work to make sure that we meet that need. So we have advisory boards from virtually all of the technical and career technical education areas that we offer programs in. That's one of the important things. I've been on the board 6 years. I've been in the Valley for about 29 now. I came down here from South Dakota, and I taught in both high school and small college in South Dakota before I came down here. When I was teaching small college in South Dakota, I was teaching in data processing, information technology area. Finally dawned on me one day that the students that I was teaching were going out making more than 3 times what I was making teaching them, so I joined them one year. So my background is in education. I have a master's in education, and my, passion for career technical education comes from the fact that when I went through high school, graduated from high school in the early 60s, Sputnik had gone up a few years before. I was fairly good in math and science, and if you were good in math and science, you went to college and became an engineer. And that was the way it was. I mean, if you didn't do that, you weren't patriotic. And so I think that at that point in time, career technical education got overlooked a great deal, and the emphasis wasn't there. Everybody had to go to college. And now that's not so true. We have so many technical areas out there that do not require necessarily a career or a college education, but do require an extremely good background in the area that they are going to work in. But a lot of our students do go on to higher education. We have roughly 65% of our students that go on to higher education once they have completed at EVIT. And those are your students and students from the other 9 sending districts that we have. It's really a passion for me to be involved in a process that equips these kids to go out and get jobs. A lot of them go on to school, but they use the foundation they get and the areas that they can work in to work their way through college. We have a tremendous number of students that finish in cosmetology. They get their state certification. 1,500 hours is a lot of work to finish up by the time you have what 2 years in at EVIT, running half days. They put in extra time to get it, but they meet that requirement, and we have an extremely high success rate of students that go take their technical boards, both in cosmetology and many of the other areas. Most of those kids go on to some kind of higher education, and they work their way through. We have kids that have flat said that it gives me the capability to go because my parents can't afford to send me. And so it's important to me that we help meet those needs. And I thank you for sending the students you do, and we'd like to see a whole bunch more from you. Norm? Well, I've been on the first elected board, which was 19 years ago now. I've been on the advisory for Mesa Votech. I started in 1978. So I hate to say I'm older than some of the people in the audience as far as being involved in this. I was raised on the south side of Chicago. My high school had a $1 million machine shop in 1955, put in by Inland Steel. Industry is the key to what we do. I've met 3 students who went through the medical program that are now doctors. And they said they owed nothing when they graduated because they graduated as an LPN. They used that for the steps to their RN and to their doctor, and they were never out of work. We're rather proud of what some of these students are doing. We had to cancel a 17-year-old girl landing the helicopter at the open house this year because of rainy weather. She has her license. So some of the things we produce, we have the VA's National Training Center on clean rooms. They came in and spent $1.5 million putting a clean room operation in. We have an operating room. We have 140,000 square foot of medical buildings, which we hope someday
we're building a sister unit in Scottsdale on the north side. We have approximately 1,300 students in medical programs right now. It's a demand and a crying need. Now, the bad news. Last night we approved the intergovernmental agreement. And it's, I don't know why you said Dr. P's Coffee Fund, but they'll deliver a check for $1,497,594.76 tomorrow. But you said the coffee fund, and I didn't understand that. We're proud. I'm a 30-year resident of Scottsdale. I live on the south side. My daughter, youngest one, went to Coronado. She's still alive today. You know, that's a challenge for me. She's doing very well. Scottsdale did its job. We're very proud of the Scottsdale School District. Now, they reorganized my territory this year for the board, which we're all familiar with. And now I have, because I was down to 44,000 registered voters in South Scottsdale, they gave me Tempe with
part of mine.
Yes, and I go all the way down to Broadway now. So, you know, to try to get my 400 signatures next year will be a thrill. You know, and will I do it again? Yes.
Absolutely.
And that'll mean, you know, 20 years next year. But what we're accomplishing when you see some of these kids, and I worked in corrections for the last 8 years, and they're vocational. And I always said our failures were my employees there. And, you know, what we're trying to do is produce taxpayers. We have no gang markings on the buildings. The students leave their gang logos at the driveway. They're very proud of the school. And I sit on the finance, the personnel, the career ladder. I sat on when we developed the document for teacher evaluations, which was approved by all of our teachers for next year. We're running the test on it this spring, and I will unannounced sit in on the evaluations as a board member to ensure that what we're doing is going to work next year. Can I answer any questions, or can Irv answer any questions?
I do have some handouts to just talk a little bit about the school that I would like to give you and leave with you, and anybody else that would care to have one.
And you have an open invitation to come and go through the campus anytime. And Irv or I will even be the tour guide since we're retired now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Norm and Irv. We appreciate EVIT and our partnership. There's just a couple of quick more comments, Madam President. We've had some great celebrations this evening. This past Saturday, we did have the Prada del Sol Parade. We had Barbara and Denny were proud board members that rode in the parade with us, and we were happy to have them. And we look forward to next year. They're still a little sore sitting on pillows up here tonight. I am also proud this last week we had our first graduation for our Scottsdale Online Soul graduates. We had 2 graduates, and we're very, very proud of them because they've started something that we look forward to continuing to grow each year, and we're very happy with that. We also had our All-City Athletic Banquet on January 28th. We had 3 of our students received $500 scholarships. Anna Gonzalez from Coronado, Paul Jacobs from Arcadia, and Lauren Welkel from Desert Mountain High School all received scholarships. And then on February 2nd, our middle school sports festival took place. And we had over 600 middle school students at our sports festival. And we're very, very proud of the work that Cliff and our middle school sports coaches have put in to make that happening. We have several of our schools right now that have submitted applications to be A+ Schools of Excellence program. And 3 of our schools have been notified that they will be receiving site visits as part of that process. So 3 of our schools are moving on to get site visits to be A+ schools. The SciTech festivals are happening. Last week we had SciTech festivals that happened at both the Arcadia and Saguaro learning communities. They were very successful. And we have Coronado, Desert Mountain, and Chaparral Learning Community Expos coming up this coming week. 2 weeks ago, Saguaro's academic decathlon team participated in the Region 4 academic decathlon. That is an event of 10 different competitions that take place over a Friday and Saturday. And we're very proud of the work that our Saguaro team has done in order to be able to compete as decathletes. Also, spring break coming up. It's very quick, right around the corner. We would just like to announce that we do have a delegation of 12 students that are going to be traveling to Marrakech in Morocco to be part of the Sister Cities Exchange program. We have high school students from across the district that will be participating as representatives of our sister city here to go to Morocco. So we're pretty excited about that. And then finally tonight, as you approve the consent agenda, I just would like to recognize our own Michelle Ostott, who's out in the area there, that she is going to be appointed as the permanent principal at Copper Ridge School. So we're very, very happy and excited. Michelle has done incredible work, and the community has overwhelmingly said, get rid of that interim title. So Michelle, tonight our board is going to be doing that. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Now is the time for the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Moved by Board Member Brown, seconded by Board Member Jackson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Congratulations, Michelle.
Okay, now we move on to information discussion items. Dr. Peterson?
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'm pleased to introduce Mr. Art Velarde. He's our principal at Pueblo Elementary School, and he's going to share with you a proposal that they are working on for Pueblo to become a full foreign language immersion school, or FLY as it's known.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson and Sandra, I am here today to talk to you about a proposal to take Pueblo to a full FLI status. And I'm going to begin by showing you a video that was put together. And before I put it on, I would like to thank Mrs. Worth, Mr. and Mrs. Torito, and our PTO for their help putting this video together for us.
Located in Scottsdale, Arizona, Pueblo Elementary School hosts the Scottsdale Unified School District's only Spanish foreign language immersion program. Students from preschool to 5th grade are immersed in a curriculum that provides them with instruction in both Spanish and English. This innovative approach to learning has attracted students from throughout the valley.
In our foreign language immersion program, we learn half the day in English and half the day in Spanish. In Spanish, we do science and math, and in English, we do social studies and language arts.
Two kids who both started out in kindergarten at Pueblo, and it's just been amazing to hear their accents, how well that they're already doing, and how they communicate with each other.
It was a personal choice for each of our teachers to come and teach in this program. And they are so excited to be teaching in a foreign language immersion program and working with these kids.
It's just an invaluable opportunity for them. I think it broadens their horizons to learn other languages in the future, and just has their mind work in a whole different way.
Mi nombre es Bianca. My favorite part of the day is Spanish.
With the language learning that they are doing, they access parts of their brain that help them be more visual, that help them be more articulate in both Spanish and in English.
We offer so many opportunities for the parents to meet with the teachers for follow-up of what's happening in the classroom, communication, and that really is the key, where the parents feel that they are connected to the teacher and that there's a free flow of information back and forth.
The teachers have given us tools to help with homework. There's different websites that we go onto that the teachers provide, as well as just all of the options we have with the internet. So, translating anything has not been an issue whatsoever.
Mi objeto favorito en la escuela es ciencias.
He's at the point where he can get his sister's homework. She's the kindergartner,
and he'll translate the directions for her if she's not quite sure what to do. So he'll get her paper out and read the directions and translate to her. So he's truly becoming bilingual.
O sea, Ash nos explicó exactamente lo que es.
We have very high standards. We have the most amazing parent population, teachers and students, and we're basically a family. We work together to ensure the success of all of our students.
¡Amamos a Pueblo! ¡Amamos a Pueblo! ¡Amamos a Pueblo!
Pueblo Elementary is proud to provide children in Scottsdale and the surrounding community with a unique place to grow and learn.
Yeah, they did a fabulous job putting that together. Just okay. All right. So first, I'd like to show you this slide right here is one of the ads that we put in the Saguaro football programs for our FLI program. Our vision of Pueblo is very simple and complicated all at once. Is we want to be the best FLI school in the state and the country. And in front of you, you see some of the areas that we'll be looking at to quantify that. Our program actually, it's going to be, it actually is this year, pre-K through 5. They learn half the day in English, half the day in Spanish. Math and science are all the way through 4th grade in Spanish. And in 5th grade, it switches to science and social studies, mostly because they will have 4 years of social studies going through Mojave and getting ready to take different kinds of math as well, all the way through high school. The program will continue all the way from Mojave, Pueblo, Mojave, Saguaro. Here's some of the rationale of why we're moving the way we're moving to become full FLI. The years that you see above in the graph in front of you are the years that group started in the foreign language immersion, starting in 07, 08. The blue is the foreign language immersion students, and the yellow is the conventional students. As you can see, the trend for conventional is going down, and the trend for foreign language immersion is going up, and we are always at capacity and turning a few people away from our foreign language immersion. As a matter of fact, out of the 12 students that I had at the beginning of the year for the conventional strand, 5 of them were there in hopes that there would be room to move over into the foreign language immersion. And also, 12 students for one classroom is kind of, not great resources, not great use of resources. These are our current numbers in red. We have 628 students. Next year, with the 6th grade moving over to Mojave, and we're going to be adding another pre-kindergarten class, and we're going to add a preschool class to our campus, so our numbers will be going to 613. And if we meet our projections all the way through 2017, we will be back at 675 by year 2017. What does that do to our staff? In red you have, in the first column in red, you have the numbers that we have currently at Pueblo. And next year, the numbers would be basically the same as we have right now. And as you can see from, if we meet our projections for student numbers, our staff, instead of decreasing, would actually increase even with the loss of 6th grade. Here are some of the benefits for going full FLI. But I would say that the main one is that it would unify the school with its focus on foreign language immersion, making sure that our students are learning in both languages, and as a staff, literally come together to be a force for our students. The timeline, the program started in 2007, fall of 2007. In 2010, it was expanded to 3 kindergarten classes. It had 2 each year before that. And then this year, which is, as you know, my first year at Pueblo, we have been marketing our school from the very beginning. We have had meetings with all stakeholders. An important date is October 24th, because that's when I met with my staff about this impending or change to see whether there would be support for it. We barely missed consensus, but there was overwhelming support for the change. And also at the Science Council meeting, we reached full consensus. As a matter of fact, everybody was very excited the direction that we are planning on going. And ending with February, I'm here presenting to you today. I guess one of the main points from this is not something that was kind of put together at the beginning of this year. This is something that has been going on for a long time, and it's been a long time coming. Some of the needed support to make this successful is advertisement, bilingual literacy specialist, continued busing to Pueblo as a choice school, and support for the Spanish curriculum, all of which is already in the works to occur. Here are a few of the ads that we have placed in some of the parenting magazines. Questions?
Board Member Brown.
You know, I stopped by there one day, and this is more of a comment. I was just amazed at the level, the language level, Spanish speaking, of itty bitties. I mean, oh my gosh, I walked in that room and it was just casual and fast, you know, one of those things, you know, just like in the cartoons. What did you just say? Whew. I mean, it's just very cool, and I love the idea. A former board member Peterson once commented that the greatest thing about Scottsdale is choice. We give our parents in Scottsdale, Arizona, the greatest choice of schools out there, and I just want to commend Pueblo. Wonderful job, and I'm glad that we discovered that niche market, and we're capitalizing on it. So,
thank you.
Board Member Pearlburn.
All right. Are there any specific challenges to this type of program with the Common Core standards coming upon us? I hear so many schools, you know, struggling with that, and you have to do it in 2 languages. How do you feel?
Well, you know, we just like everybody else, we're looking to see what it looks like at each one of our individual schools. But our FLI program actually has met together, and like one of the particular discussions that I'm very proud of is the teachers that are teaching English looked at Common Core in English, and then the teachers that are teaching in Spanish, their job was, how do we support the Common Core? Because the Common Core is not a, 2.5 hour a day item. It's going to have to go into our Spanish. So those conversations are already underway, and I'm very confident that we'll be able to meet that challenge.
Thank you. Board Member Jackson.
I just wanted to say, I read this 3 times when I got the board packet. It's very exciting. I don't see the downside. My wife and I have talked about this for years about how wonderful the work is you do at Pueblo. So it's just a comment more than anything. This is very exciting, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a couple of questions. I'm very familiar with the program. My daughter attended Pueblo. You weren't there yet. We missed each other. It's a fabulous, fabulous program, and I'm very excited to see it evolve to this presentation tonight, because I know that was the vision of where we wanted to be when we grew up, when I was at Pueblo. Can you talk to me a little bit about the competition, the nearby competition of who are we competing with? I know there's the international school, I believe is what it's called, that's fairly close by, and are they 100% FLI? And then how many languages do they offer?
I don't know how many offer.
And about how far are they in miles from
They're
Pueblo?
up next to our maintenance facility on Via Linda.
Okay, so they're nearby.
In San Salvador.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, in that regard, has the team put together 2-year, 3-year, 5-year plan of if this is approved, what might, beyond just the numbers of the enrollment, what offerings might be out there in the future?
Well, first, by the way, just going back to the first question, we also have Biltmore Prep. That's
Okay.
another one of the schools that offers FLI. But basically, on our plan, we are working, especially we're working to come up with a very cohesive language structure for our school. We have the academic component. The academic component is there. It's very strong. Our plan in the future is we're going to be working with Kevin Clark Consulting, basically bringing the key language acceleration principles to Pueblo and implement them also into our Spanish side. So it's not, because most of our clientele is Spanish as a second language students. The plan is to come up with such a cohesive plan that it's written, that it's formalized, so that our competition does not even stand a chance. That's basically the plan.
Board Member Brown?
Is there anything in the park assessment that'll be a problem here? We're doing it all in English, right? I mean, we'll be doing the park assessment in English. And is there anything with computers that becomes a problem with the programs? Is everything dual English, Spanish? Are there?
Well, no, the computers are set in English, but the basically what we're hold on, I'm sorry, I just talked myself out of the first part. The first part of your
I
comment.
do that all the time. Don't worry about it.
What was the first part of the comment? I'm sorry.
Park assessment.
Park assessment. Thank you. No, I'm not concerned about that. We work very hard on our writing on the English side, and our test scores show that instruction in Spanish does not affect our performance of the assessments in English. For example, we just had a staff meeting in which we brought in all of our benchmarks together, and per grade level, they separated them into piles of clearly passing the benchmark, clearly not passing the benchmark, coming up with a common thread throughout the grade level, and each grade level then chose a goal to tackle for the rest of the year. We are constantly working on our writing, and so I'm confident we will do very well.
On the slide of needed support, the bilingual literacy specialist. Talk to me about what that is and
we have a position already on campus that is actually an ELD teacher servicing about, it's about 6 students, seeing 6 students and then supporting about another 15. I'm working with Carolyn Rep under the world languages, not guys, that's the wrong word, with her hat for world languages. And so that staff FTE is going to be repurposed to service the students, and it's going to be an expert to be able to help all of our teachers with the teaching of second language and supporting also our English language teachers.
Okay, great, thank you. And then the busing as a school of choice. Explain what that means, please.
Well, basically, we're looking kind of at the model of ANLC, and I think Dr. Thomas will be speaking a little more about that in his presentation.
Oh, okay, great. Then we'll wait. Questions? Oh, Board Member Jackson.
I'm obviously enthused about this, but are you anticipating growth in the program? I mean, we want it to be a school of choice, which, I mean, from your presentation, I think it's incredible, and that I think the demand over the years is going to continue to grow, and I just want to make sure that that's being planned for. It'd be nice that every student that wants to go through the Pueblo Fly program gets an opportunity.
Yes, well, we are looking to expand. We're going to go from 3 classrooms to 4 classrooms for next year, and we are prepared to grow even more. We will have the room on our campus for it. For example, we went from a B school to an A school within the year, and that already has basically brought a lot of parents out saying, hey, good things are going on at Pueblo. And I have to say that's the work of Terry Kellen and Dr. Jackie Hale. So that brought us to that A, and now our job is to keep it and we're going to be bringing people in. We're in a community where word of mouth is precious, and that's what we're going to work on, getting our name out there, letting them see how good we are.
I have another question. On the student number projections, so you have 2012, which I assume was last fall, 2013, which is your projection for next fall?
Yes.
Okay, so if I'm reading this correctly, this is a conservative projection for grades 2 through 5 because you're assuming that none of the conventional students move over to FLI.
Well, you know, some students may move out, but we also have plans for accepting students. For example, just as an example, I have a student whose parents I met with last week. They toured the school. They are a first grade student, and they're going to be coming into our second grade. We have a foreign language immersion camp where we kind of give them a crash course on language. And then we have extra tutoring for them in the fall semester to help them support their language learning and getting them up to speed so that they can join our program in the upper grades.
So in kindergarten right now, which will go to first grade next year, the assumption is that most of those 18 conventional kids will move over to FLI. So
Yes, actually, I've been meeting with the parents. I have here, actually, it's a last slide in case there was a question about that. There's 6 students who are undecided still whether they want to join our foreign language immersion. 12 of them have already agreed to move over. So I have on the 84, I only have the students who have agreed to come over. I have not counted those 6 until they have made a decision. And you can see the red dots represent where they are in our boundary, and we have 1 student that's open enrolled from Mesa.
thank you, thank you. Any other questions? Board Member Sneed.
No, thank you so much. I remember going through the program when it was first getting started. It was so exciting. Do you anticipate any pushback from neighbors about a boundary change that might be involved when we make this a school of choice?
I know not everybody will be happy, but that would be pretty much impossible. But I have discussed this with many of my families at Pueblo, and they are in support of this.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is item 10B, proposed boundary change impacting Pueblo Elementary School as a school of choice.
Thank you, Madam President. As we consider the possibility of Pueblo becoming a full fly school, Mr. Velarde did say that it would be a school of choice, and therefore the people living in the school boundaries would need to be opt in to go there, or they would have another home school. So Dr. Thomas is going to provide that information. And then also after this, we would just like to let you know, based on what we hear as positive support, we will be bringing back this information item to the board for final approval as an action item.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Madam President, members of the governing board, Dr. Peterson and Sandra and guests, it's my pleasure to provide a little bit more information that accompanies Mr. Velarde's presentation and what the potential impact could be should we begin the process of moving Pueblo to a full foreign language immersion program. This is always near and dear to my heart because I'm one of those people who has benefited greatly in my time as being a second language learner. Years ago, I personally started down a path when I started with Spanish, and to this day it's a skill that has served me well. So from that vantage point, it's exciting for us to see the evolution of the program that started as a dream back in 2006, and now we have several hundred kids. And a little commercial we're going to give ourselves is in March, Superintendent Huppenthal will be joining us for a visit over at Pueblo and to take a look at our Mandarin program because people across the state are looking at what we're doing as one of the models. So this, again, is part of why we think this is an appropriate time to take a look at this. If we consider going to a school of choice, FLI, at Pueblo, we would have to follow both policy JC and regulation JCR, which essentially says that the board must set the attendance school areas, and then the regulation essentially puts into place what are the working mechanisms by which we would consider that change. Take a look at the current boundary. Up in the upper right-hand quarter is where the Pueblo boundary is. On the north, it has the Arizona Canal. On the east, it has Pima Road. On the south, Chaparral. And then back to the Arizona Canal over on the western boundary. If we were to look at a boundary change and begin the process of converting to a school of choice, it would essentially mean that the Pueblo boundary would be absorbed by Navajo and by Kiva. So if you look at the boundary as it proposed now, we have a nice even dividing line along Chaparral and Hayden that are natural barriers for that boundary. So for us, it becomes fairly straightforward in terms of our recommendation. If you put the two boundary maps together, you can see the difference in the comparison. For Navajo, what would happen is the Navajo boundary would essentially move northward when we get to Hayden, north of Chaparral, and would extend all the way up to the Arizona Canal, and then it would go to the east over to Pima Road, where it currently is below Chaparral. If you look at the Kiva boundary would move westward from the Arizona Canal, and it would go all the way over to Hayden. So again, a nice configuration and contiguous. The impact, Pueblo would become a school of choice with no home or neighborhood boundary, very similar to ANLC and Cheyenne, which we currently have. Just mentioned briefly what would happen with the Kiva boundary and what would happen with the Navajo boundary. What is nice about this proposed change is it would have no boundary impact at all at Mojave or at Saguaro, because they already are the natural feeder pattern within the learning community. Now, the big question becomes transportation. We currently have 2 routes that drive Pueblo students, so I think that was one of the surprises. People were thinking that there were more routes being driven than there currently are. Because it is a choice program, many of the open enrollment students at Pueblo are already driving there, so it doesn't impact them. And then it's walking distance for quite a few kids, and then also the 2 routes that we run within the area. We would recommend that we would continue those 2 routes for next year, so for 2013, 2014. But as we do every year, we would examine all of our routes to make sure, are they appropriate? Do we have the right stops, the right number of stops to meet student needs? Are we addressing safety issues, etc.? Now, the next bullet, this is what it could cost if we were to have the need to add an additional route, and that would be $10,800 per route. It's approximately a 2-hour cost, and that would include the cost of the estimated cost of fuel and staff time. The maximum number of routes we could see adding would be 2, 1 route that would go to Navajo, 1 route that would go to Kiva. Now, the last bullet is really where we want to emphasize, however. We don't believe we would need to add routes at this time based upon what we have, but we want to make sure that the board would have that information just in case. We think we could do this with current route assignments and adjusting those without having to add routes. The other thing we look at is what is the potential impact to other programs. Each year, special education, as part of its annual planning, takes a look at student need, takes a look at programs, takes a look at facilities and location, and then would make recommendations should it need to move classes. Now, special education has already been doing this process independent of the potential change here at Pueblo, and regardless of the outcome, whatever the direction the board takes, is several of those programs would be moved because they would be more appropriately placed for a variety of reasons at the other schools. So 2 of those self-contained classes would go to Kiva. 1 of those would go to Mojave, which is the natural roll-up with the 6th graders going to Mojave next year. And then the other one would be the only class that would actually move out of the learning community going to Pima, but because of where the students are in the configuration, it actually is a better match geographically. And Mary Lou Messino, Director of Special Ed, is already engaged in the conversations with the various principals to make sure, should we go down this path, they've already been in the loop, very welcoming, very willing to have those programs on their campus. For our English language learners and learning resource in special ed that are currently served at Pueblo, they would continue to be served. There would not be any changes. We would not propose at this time any changes to the current programs with gifted. Our community education program already serves at Pueblo. The only change would be that we would offer, once people would be entered into the Pueblo community as a school of choice, it would be following our open enrollment policy, which basically says that once you're in, you get to stay in under open enrollment. So in reality, we would really have no significant changes with the majority of the additional programs at Pueblo. So if the board decides to go forward, we would have to do some next steps. First, according to regulation JCR, we would have to make sure that we would present our recommendations to the governing board, including a map at a public meeting, and then the opportunity for public comment. So today's item is the information item. We would have to go back and then do a follow-up meeting to present this information should it become then an action item on behalf of the board. We would have to provide 10 days notice to parents and guardians of students that could be impacted, so they have an opportunity to have that information and participate in that process. We would also recommend that we would be meeting at Pueblo Elementary School to have that meeting, and that we would provide the opportunity for comments at that meeting. And we would provide notice with written notification to parents and guardians in the Pueblo community through newsletters, our website, and broadcast and print media as appropriate. So we would continue with our communication process, get the word out wherever we needed to. And of course, we would have postings in the school like we normally do our postings, and information map would delineate the proposed changes, just as you saw as an example there, and we would post it on the district website. At this point, we would like to entertain any questions.
Okay, Board Member Brown.
Do we ever share transportation between more than one school? Do we ever bus, so Pueblo, Navajo, could they potentially ever share a bus route?
Madam President, Member Brown, we don't typically do that because a lot of it will depend on the starting times, neighborhoods, configurations. That's certainly something we could explore, but what we have found over time, in places where we had done that sharing, logistically it becomes somewhat problematic. But could we look at that? Absolutely.
Ms. Perleberg?
You, kind of two questions, two separate ones. And one is, I'll start with the boundary question. Is the open enrollment priorities given to families that do live closest to the school, or is it purely based on dates when the open enrollment was registered? Or will there be a period of time at Pueblo where they do consider, you know, those families that maybe moved into the neighborhood with that expectation and now suddenly find they have to open enroll?
Yeah, Madam President, Ms. Perlberg, that's exactly what the significant change would mean. It would no longer be a neighborhood school. So they could choose as a school of choice, but the neighborhood school would then be either Navajo or Kiva, depending upon where the residence is.
Right.
And then through our open enrollment policy, they would follow the guidelines, and the guidelines really at this point have no preference for geography.
Okay, and so there'd be no buffer period for those families at all? It's
Generally
just 1 year,
speaking,
it's, okay.
Yeah, generally speaking, no. However,
The only change would be, again, in our policy, if a sibling is in the school already, they have that priority, so they would get that. So they would have that. Now, we could look at a transition period as part of this process and have a 3 or 4 year priority transition period also.
Thank you, just
and we would-
wondering about that.
And we would have to then modify the policy or make an exception But the other thing, and I don't know if it came out clearly on the presentation, this is actually a phase-in over a 4-year period. So the first part of the phase-in is kinder and first grade. Then the next part will be second and third grade, then fourth and fifth grade. So we're not doing it all at once. What we're trying to do is start with the little ones first. The sooner we get them into the FLI program, then that transition becomes easier. But the kids who are already in the school, already in the regular classroom structure, not in FLI, will continue until they matriculate out to Mojave.
They phase that out. All right, thank you for that clarification. Also, to catch up, how is the FLI transfer to Mojave and Saguaro exactly?
Madam President, Madam Perelberg, that's a great question. We actually, in the staffing process over the next month, because this will become public, we'll be setting the staff who will be at Mojave. Because we haven't finalized anything yet, we're not quite there. We do know that it will be FLI teachers who have familiarity with the program that will be at Mojave next year to continue the program.
Very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I want to make sure I understand the sequencing. Just back to you what I think I heard you say, so correct me if I'm wrong. So in 2013-14 school year, the boundary change would take effect?
Correct.
And then the busing to Kiva and Navajo would therefore follow, correct?
Correct, if needed.
If needed. So the families in the conventional program that would be in grades 2 through 5, and those would be the ones we would phase out, we would allow them to stay at Pueblo. If they chose to then go to Kiva or go to Navajo, do we have have we had a conversation with those families to let them know that might be an option for you to get their feedback as to, yeah, I want to go to the STEM program, or no, I want to stay here?
Madam President, we have not had that conversation yet, pending the board's reaction. So based upon the reaction, yes, we could have that conversation with them.
Okay, so pending that conversation, it is feasible that rather than have a school next year of 613 enrollment, we could drop down significantly if many of those families chose to go ahead and take advantage of Navajo or Kiva.
Yeah. I'm sorry? Yeah. Madam President, Art?
While that is a possibility, I don't foresee that happening. For basically, the main reason is parents at Pueblo have seen the growth that their students are making, the culture of our school. I honestly don't foresee that happening at all.
But it is the intent to poll those families and bring that information back to the board. Similar to, I guess I liken it to what we did with Kiva with the K-8 to get their commitments up front before we made the change.
We will do so.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we move on to item 10C, gifted services update.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Dr. Kim Dodds is here to provide a very brief presentation for us regarding gifted.
Good evening, Madam President, governing board members, Dr. Peterson and Sandra. Tonight I'm here to share with you the celebrations of our gifted program and provide the new board members with some information about what we do offer for our gifted kids here in Scottsdale Unified School District. A little background about our gifted program. The program is founded upon a variety of factors, including the National Association for Gifted Children, their program standards. The state board policy, Arizona is one of the few states that actually has a mandate to provide gifted services for children. We utilize our Common Core standards and our content standards for the grade level, and our district strategic plan is a driving force for us to align our program to ensure that we are indeed reaching the goals of our school district. The 21st century standards, independent study, and some of the tenets of gifted education, like thinking like a disciplinarian and the prompts of depth and complexity, are important. We also utilize ongoing assessment, and I'll talk about identification. That's a little different than ongoing assessment that we use in the classroom. when we plan our differentiated instruction. Our school district utilizes a few different methods for identification. The state has specific criteria for identifying gifted kids. Kids who score in the 97th percentile or higher, as you can see on here, automatically qualify for gifted services. Our school district also utilizes another process known as the matrix process that you can also see here, and that's where we consider kids who score in the 93rd to the 96th percentiles, and we also consider their academic achievement for this. All of this is through state-approved tests, either the group-administered test that we offer in our school district, or we will accept an outside evaluation from a licensed psychologist. Something we're very proud of and very thankful for the support of our technology department is the fact that we now have an online testing registration system so that we are able to efficiently and effectively notify families of testing opportunities, as well as have them go online and register. We offer testing 2 times per year that is based on parent request, and a parent will go online and fill out the form and request that their child be tested in the fall or in the winter. When a family completes the registration, they do receive an email that confirms that they have successfully enrolled their child and requested a testing registration. You will see here that we in the fall administered tests to 407 kids, and currently we are administering tests to 543 kids. The flu did hit us pretty hard when it came to testing, so makeup testing has taken longer than we had anticipated because so many kids were out when we did test. You will see that we use proctors for each of the assessments. This is just a schematic for you to see that the COGAT is a parent requested test. We see a pattern with this. All second graders that you will see on our next slide will be blanket tested with the Naglieri. So this is parent request with a pattern of parents requesting the COGAT. Beginning in a week, when we return to school on the 19th, we will begin testing all second grade kids in our school district with the Naglieri. The document that you see on the right side of your computer screen is the informed consent that we provide to our families. All families in second grade should have, by now, received this letter in English and in Spanish that informs them of the testing that will be administered at all school sites for second grade kids. Parents have the opportunity to opt out with this consent form if they do not want their child to be tested. When kids are tested and then identified as gifted in our school district, there are a variety of programs available. Somebody mentioned earlier, I think it was Board Member Brown, that we have a lot of choice. You're now a governor. That we have a lot of choice in our school district, and we do when it comes to the gifted programs available at our schools as well. We provide services for PACT and comprehensive gifted at the elementary school. PACT is our pull-out model that I'll elaborate on. We also offer cluster grouping, and at our middle schools we cluster in language arts. We offer comprehensive gifted, and math is based on readiness. So all kids, when they leave the elementary school, take a placement test to identify their readiness level for 6th, 7th, or 8th grade math, algebra, or geotrig honors. At the high school level, we offer honors courses, advanced placement, and international baccalaureate. These courses of study are all open access, so children do not have to be identified to be participating in the honors AP or IB programs. Each of our curricular models that a school may choose does follow some tenets that we believe are important and are founded in gifted education, and it's defined as the layered curriculum. So we see throughout our programs a variety of methods that include depth and complexity, the use of current events, the classics, and we focus on thinking like a disciplinarian. Most commonly at our schools, we have a program that is defined as PACT. It is a pull-out program that we have at all of our schools. The content is based on our content standards, and this slide will illustrate for you the staffing allocation and then the impact it has on the program. So we offer full-time staffing at the schools listed on the left table. At a school that is staffed full-time, children receive 5 periods of math per week. The teacher becomes a replacement math teacher. But they also receive 2 periods of thematic integrated instruction during this time, which is often dependent upon what's happening at the grade level and is designed to enrich what's happening in the classroom. At our schools that have a part-time staffing, the children receive 1 period of thematic integrated instruction per week and 1 period of math enrichment per week. Our kids in grades kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade For those who have been identified, either formally or informally, they are grouped together, and with the support of the gifted specialist at the school site, they will provide some enrichment or support to the classroom teacher, but children in kindergarten, first and second grade do not receive formal pull-out services. The classroom teacher instead will differentiate the curriculum and the instructional practices in their classroom. We are very proud of our comprehensive gifted programs that have been going strong and are continuing to develop. The comprehensive gifted program is designed for kids with very strong academic ability as well as intellectual capabilities. So you will notice that we have programs at Redfield and Hopi for our elementary schools. We have programs at our middle schools for Desert Canyon, Ingleside, and Mojave. And last year we had talked about a feeder type pattern. So our Redfield kids in grades 2 through 5, they traditionally will feed into Desert Canyon Middle School for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. The Hopi program that we opened last year, they will feed, and they do this year, feed into Ingleside, which is why we opened 6th grade at Ingleside this year. And then we have Mojave. And Mojave has been in place before Desert Canyon years ago and has maintained the program there. And it's central in our school district and pulls from kids from Pima, from Navajo, from Kiva, and from Pueblo. We also pull children from outside of our boundaries as well. But it does not have a feeder elementary school. Our comprehensive gifted program, as you can see, is an application-based program, and children do need to qualify for this program based on a formal application process. We do have targeted expansions at Mojave Middle School and Ingleside Middle School. As we looked to our incoming 6th graders for the 2013-2014 school year, we are hopeful that we will be able to create a 6th grade at Mojave for the comprehensive gifted program. And we are also planning to add 7th grade next year at Ingleside, so that will increase our offerings at the middle school level. Something that we do to promote our comprehensive gifted programs is we tour and we tour and we tour. And so this slide will show you Mr. Asmussen in the top right corner. And this picture highlights the fact that when we have a tour, while I am there and I facilitate the tour, the principal is always by my side. And we actually have parents who come to our tours as well who have students in the program. The reason we have our principal there is because when a family is making a choice to come to the comprehensive gifted program, they're choosing to be part of a new school. And so it is a school within a school model, so we want to be able to highlight everything that is available at that particular school if a parent is choosing to enroll their child in a new school. On the bottom picture, you'll see some kids in Mr. Nay's 5th grade classroom at Redfield. A neat component of our tour is the fact that we don't just visit the classrooms, but we actually have question and answer with the kids. And so parents are able to ask questions that their children might ask, or if there are children on our tour, the children will ask questions to the students, so that will be helpful when a family goes home and has the conversation about considering a new school for their child. And you can just see some of the tours that we've offered. When it shows you the attendance, for example, at Redfield when we had 4 families on the sign-in sheet, that might have meant that we had 8 or 10 people, because often a family will come together, a mom, a dad, and a child, or it could just be one parent. One thing we like to do is thank our families for touring, so we have created a postcard that we do send home after every tour, and we've tried to capture during our tours some of the comments that parents and children make about the gifted program, and things that we really love when we hear parents saying, as soon as I saw the classroom and instruction, I knew that this was what my child was missing. For some of our gifted kids, this is the perfect placement for them. As you can see here, this slide will just illustrate for you our current enrollment at Redfield and at Hopi. And it will also show you Desert Canyon, Mojave, and Ingleside. This next slide illustrates for you our projections for the 2013-2014 school year. What we do in the spring is we send home a letter to all of our current families to see if they are planning to continue in the program. And they will commit to continuing in the program. So those are the numbers that you see in the parentheses. The numbers to the left of each of the parentheses are the kids that we have accepted into the program who are new and will begin in the 2013-2014 school year for the first time. We do offer cluster grouping as well, And at Arcadia Neighborhood Learning Center, we do offer cluster grouping for children at all grades. So these children are in a classroom all day, every day with their classroom teacher, and the gifted specialist there, she serves as a pull out or a push in teacher. So she goes in, will do some co-teaching with the classroom teacher, or she'll pull a small group in the classroom. And when she pulls kids, they aren't necessarily identified as gifted, but it's a particular group that the teacher has identified as needing enrichment in the classroom. And this is just some information for you about what happens in the cluster program. At our middle school, similar to our elementary, we do offer full-time self-contained gifted. At most of our schools, we have 6th and 7th grade and 8th grade as well. We offer full class placement at one grade level at Desert Canyon Middle School. What I mean by that is at Desert Canyon with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade there on their campus, there is one teacher for every subject of their core curriculum. So their language arts, social studies, science, and math are all taught by the comprehensive gifted program teachers. At Mojave, for example, Mrs. McBride, she teaches a split subject of English language arts and social studies, so the kids have her for 2 periods. So it could be first and second period that they have her, or it could be third and fourth period that they have Mrs. McBride. 1 period for ELA, 1 period for social studies. The same at Ingleside this year. Mr. Blankenstein has the kids for ELA and social studies. Science is taught by Mrs. Kaiser, who happens to be in the audience today at Mojave, for our 8th graders, and Mr. Taveld. So we do have the separate classes for our science. Math at Mojave and at Ingleside is based on readiness, but does not have the designated comprehensive gifted program teacher, and that's based on the number of kids at the school. We do offer cluster grouping, so kids are clustered in language arts, and we also offer currently 0.5 staffing per school that utilizes a teacher as an elective teacher. So for 2 periods per day, with the exception of SUPI, our teachers are available to offer an elective course that I'll elaborate on in a moment. So as you can see here, in a classroom where there is cluster grouping for language arts, we might see over the course of time any of the bulleted items listed there for you. So we will see Socratic seminar, we'll see a variety of journals or note-taking, we'll be able to see novel studies and literature circles over time in a clustered classroom. Math, as I mentioned previously, is dependent upon readiness based on the placement test, and then our kids have a choice to take an elective that is taught by a gifted endorsed teacher. They do not, however, have to take that course, and currently we offer at Desert Canyon and Copper Ridge robotics, Mojave and Mountainside offer architecture, Cocopah and Ingleside offer design, technology, and engineering, and SUPI offers independent study. These courses were identified as a need on the campus at the time. And as I mentioned previously, our high school programs are honors AP and IB, which are open access. Overall, our classroom goals are to provide a challenging curriculum for our kids. We want it to be academic, but we also want to pay careful attention to the affective needs or the social emotional characteristics of our kids. So our teachers are aware of perfectionism, and they respect a child's perfectionistic tendencies. So for some kids, if they put an erasure mark in a piece of paper, it's the end of the day, and the whole paper needs to be rewritten, and a piece of tape can't fix it. So we have teachers who are really patient with understanding that, or anxiety on the day of a test, and how that can really just set a child on edge. So we really care deeply for our kids, and the affective needs are very important to us. Critical, creative, and analytical thinking is a priority as well. So often in our gifted classrooms, you will see very open-ended tasks with lots of group work and open-ended divergent products that our kids create. Another process that we're proud to have in place and consistent in our school district is a grade acceleration process. And this is for children whose families or teachers identify that perhaps the placement that the child is currently in isn't best for them, either in terms of a subject area or as a whole grade. So what you can see here is that to date, for the past 2 years, we have completed 2 whole grade level accelerations at the elementary level and 2 at the middle school level. And we have also completed 1 single subject acceleration at the middle school level. The numbers that are in the parentheses will indicate to you children who were eligible for a grade acceleration but actually didn't. The parent decided, I'm not going to grade accelerate, but actually I want to try out the comprehensive gifted program so my child can stay in their appropriate age grade, but be more academically challenged in the classroom. And sometimes we have kids who actually aren't a candidate for acceleration based on our assessments. So we do have a formal process that utilizes, and I know this is small for you, but I just kind of wanted you to see what the sites use. It does follow 3 meetings. Our initial meeting is to really talk with the family about the formal process for a grade skip. What we do during this is we analyze some test results, we talk with the family, and we parallel the response to intervention process where we set a timeline for specific tiered intervention to support enrichment for the child's learning. After 30 to 45 days, we come back together and we review the information during our second meeting. And the results of that meeting either say that differentiation has been perfect and my child's needs are being met, or the differentiation has been great, but we'd still like to further pursue a grade skip. For that, we do utilize the Iowa Acceleration Scale. It is a formal process of assessment. It is quantitative as well as qualitative. So we look at cognitive abilities, academic achievement, and aptitude. And we also talk with the family and we discuss all sorts of questions that are measured on a Likert scale. Such questions as, if a grade skip were to occur, would a child be in the same class as their sibling? Would the placement require a new school? Is your child shorter than or taller than the rest of their classmates? Does your child run and play? Are they involved in school or outside of school? So it really considers the whole child to make sure that a grade skip is an appropriate placement. And for the students that I mentioned previously that did grade accelerate, the Iowa Acceleration Scale clearly identified that an acceleration was a perfect choice for that child. Something that we are thankful for is the opportunity to provide continued education for our teachers. So here you can see some pictures of teachers learning together. We had the opportunity to send some teachers to a summer institute last year to see demonstration classrooms with gifted kids. It was a theory to practice type environment. The bottom picture on your left shows the elementary gifted specialist learning from a teacher on assignment. And the picture on the top right shows you a picture of one of the cohorts of the 110 participants currently working to obtain their gifted endorsement. That being said, we are offering a gifted endorsement in our school district as we recognize the need to provide continued education for our teachers. We are offering a gifted endorsement free of charge for our teachers. It's their time that they are investing. And so this course is 135 hours of professional development and 2 upper division courses. We've partnered with Scottsdale Community College. We are very excited to be working with Bobby Safera for the practicum. And our teachers can actually earn their practicum hours for free. If they take an intern, they can receive a voucher. And the voucher will give them 3 credits at the school. So they need 6 credits. So if they take 2 interns over time, they can have both of their courses reimbursed through the college. We currently have 110 teachers, teachers on assignment, and administrators in the program. It's fantastic. We have people from kindergarten to high school. We have special ed and general ed, teachers on assignments, assistant principals. It's an interesting and fascinating group of people. There's opportunities for online learning through a webinar. Some of our participants are actually logged on tonight, probably about now. Is it about 7? They are through the University of California at Irvine. Tonight, the topic is meeting the needs of the gifted child in the Common Core classroom. So they can be online for free, learning about this from an expert in the field. I do offer opportunities for families to meet with me and learn about our gifted program, so I offer Coffee with Kim. We have had 3 this year. Anasazi, Mojave, and Cherokee have hosted them. We've tried to plan 1 at each learning community. And then I do offer tours for the comprehensive gifted program. We offer 5 per year. We start in November and we end in May. Just a little bit of information for you in our community outreach. Back to school night started in September, and to date, our last Coffee with Kim was at Cherokee on the 6th. So we've been able to meet with many different families throughout the year. Something else that we're very proud of, for the past 3 years, we've been working to create a group known as PAGES now. It is the Parent Association for Gifted Education in Scottsdale. And as you can see, this is a parent advocacy group. So this is a conduit for the school district to the school sites and the community. It works similar to our parent council, where they are working to support in any way that they can the gifted program and the teachers who are teaching their children. One question that we're often asked, and I wanted just to share with you so you could reiterate it to the community, is people say, how can I learn more about the gifted program? So you can always visit our website. You can always attend any meeting that we offer. We would love people to be there. Talk to your gifted specialist or your school principal. We always encourage our families, or of course call our office. We offer families helpful resources from the state level to the national level to practical resources for just fun activities to do with your child at home. So we do provide some online resources for our families. And then of course our contact information if people ever have questions for us. With that, I'd like to know if you have any questions.
Board Member Brown.
Let's see. So, when we're testing, when Natty Squared or whatever that thing is called, and do people know what that is before we give them the test, or what's the sequence of events? Do you say, you know, I'm going to give this young person a test, it's Natty Squared, and it's for gifted people, and do you want to do this or no?
Yep. So great question, Board Member Brown. So the informed consent does provide the parents with a little bit of information about what the test actually is. And we do remind them that it is a snapshot of time, and so by no means should they decide their child's life path on the results of this test. In terms of practicing, we do get a lot of calls, and you know, how can I help my child be prepared for this test? The Naglieri 2, the NNAT.
Oh yeah,
2.
that.
This is a nonverbal measure of general ability. So children do not actually read the test. The proctor comes into their classroom. Their classroom teacher is also there. They do 2 sample questions together and then proceed. So this particular test, if you can imagine, say, the American flag and a portion of it is missing, the portion will be missing and then there will be 4 squares below. The child picks it. It progressively gets, it changes. I can't say it gets more difficult, but the questions change throughout the test.
Do we, so is everybody offered this test?
Every second grade student in our district is offered. We test now so that we can get the results that will help us with staffing and placement to begin in 3rd grade.
What percentage pulls out? What percentage opts?
A little under 3%.
Oh. Now, we don't offer IQ testing. We don't do that, right?
That is an outside evaluation through a licensed psychologist where we will get an IQ, and we do receive a handful per week of IQ tests. We administer group-normed, group ability tests, so the COGAT, the Cognitive Abilities Test, and the Naglieri.
So, okay, this is all great. Coca Pond, Ingleside, offering engineering. Hey, Mitch.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to put 3D printers over there or anything and make these available to these really smart little rascals?
Well, I can tell you that last year when I had the opportunity to begin learning about our CTE programs, I was very impressed by them, and I did tap into Mitch and his wallet to get some curricular support for the design, technology, and engineering course that we are offering at those schools.
Very cool. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Board Member Sneed.
Thank you so much. It's just been wonderful to see our gifted offerings blossom over the last few years and become available to so many students across the district. I'm wondering, do we have any idea what the migration is from schools that don't offer comprehensive gifted? I guess I'm just wondering, like, how many students do we have
that feed into our CGPs?
I wouldn't say feed into, but choose to go to outside their home school in order to get into the comprehensive gifted programs.
An exact number I could email you, but I can tell you we have a lot.
Okay.
So
that would make sense to me. But.
And more commonly what we see are Desert Canyon Elementary kids going to Redfield. We do see that quite frequently. We do see Cherokee kids going to Redfield. And I know the question about transportation was asked for the foreign language immersion program. We do offer transportation. So if a Laguna child wants to attend the program at Redfield, they can get on the bus right there by Laguna at the Boys and Girls Club and then it takes them on the route. There's also a route to Desert Canyon. The way it works for transportation for us is at the beginning of the year, there are routes, and based on the rider participation, the route either stays open or they'll close it. So there'll be a route, by Cherokee that will take children. We just, last week actually, accepted a little boy into the Redfield program from Cherokee, and he, it was kind of the story that makes your eyes well up, because it was the perfect placement for this little boy after some hard searching for the right school.
That's great, and you anticipated my next question, which was the transportation. Do we have? Is there a hard and fast capped enrollment for the comprehensive gifted program?
Yes. Thank you for asking, Board Member Sneed. For our elementary school, we are capped at 25. At our middle school, we are capped at 27. And when we get to that cap, we start a wait list. We actually started a wait list for 8th grade for next year at Desert Canyon Middle School. So we do have a wait list right there.
And at the high school level, I have always heard that AP and IB offerings do not qualify as gifted services. Can you explain?
Sure. Many gifted children will take AP or IB, but they are not necessarily a gifted program. So something to be considered would be, how can we utilize gifted pedagogy and practices within that curriculum? So how can we prepare some teachers perhaps to be gifted endorsed and teaching those classes that our kids are taking, because rightfully so, that's what they're going to take for their college path and preparation for the schools that they want to participate in when they are outside in the secondary world. So while they are not a formal program, they are courses that many gifted kids take.
Okay, so then the actual gifted services are provided by the classroom teacher?
Yes.
Thank you.
Board Member Jackson?
Dr. Dodds, I have a son at Mojave who is Mrs. McBride, and we've been incredibly thrilled with her and the whole program there. And Mojave does not have a feeder school. And I guess my question is, are you seeing, what's the enrollment look like for the 6th grade coming into Mojave? Do you have any idea?
So this is our first year with 6th grade, and it's a perfect question to ask Board Member Jackson, because this is a time for us to begin recruiting. Something we started to do 2 years ago with the support of Dr. Forlis was thinking about how can we reach out to families that otherwise never knew about the comprehensive gifted program. So our first step, it seemed pretty simple, but it's been helpful, was we redesigned our acceptance letter. So when children are identified as gifted, the family no longer just receives a letter that says, "Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Brown, your child has been accepted to the gifted program." It now says, "Your child is accepted to the gifted program, identified as gifted, here are their scores." And if they are high enough, we also say, "Your child is also eligible for the comprehensive gifted program." So we introduce them to this other option that they might not otherwise have known about. And then we also hold parent nights every time we've had an identification. And at the parent night, we hope that families will attend, and we explain your child can stay at their school or they can apply for the comprehensive gifted program. That being said, that was one of our first steps. Another conversation that Andy had with me was, can we run some data to find out who are these kids that are eligible that aren't applying? So again, our IT department has been a godsend, and they have helped us by pulling the data to find out who are these children that are eligible but haven't applied, and how can we reach out to these families by phone, by letter, by our community specialists. When we were looking at Ingleside last year, we were able to use Mr. Gannon, was very helpful, as was the community specialist, in reaching out to our families. So we're trying that. So at this point in time, I believe I'd have to go back. I think we have 3 or 4 kids accepted at Mojave for next year, which for us is, sorry, there we go. We have 3 kids accepted for 6th grade. This is unusual for us. At this time in the year, we don't typically have this many kids that have applied and been accepted. Often our elementary families are still, I think, coming to grips with the fact that their child is going to middle school. And so because they haven't had a direct feeder, they haven't been thinking about class placement. So we do have 3 kids that we have accepted, and 4 from our 6th grade students as well. Does that help to answer?
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so thank you for your presentation. I enjoyed it. What's always struck me, and we've talked a bit about it tonight, is that Mojave has no feeder. And we've been very successful at Hopi, and we have the Redfield program. And my world, I think of north of Camelback Mountain, south of Shea is not in line with our boundaries, but it's close. How do we ramp up a program to feed into Mojave?
Board President, that's a real interesting question, Mrs. Kirby, because when we opened up Hopi, we began drawing kids from Pima that traditionally went to either Redfield or they stayed at Pima and then would go to Mojave. So by opening up Hopi, we are pulling some children that otherwise would be going into Mojave, and now they're going to go to Ingleside. When we have run the data to find out how many Pueblo, Navajo, and Kiva kids would be eligible for the program at Mojave, our numbers are pretty low. So if we were to think about could we create an elementary program in that learning community, we'd have to think about how will that impact the Redfield program and the Hopi program, because we currently have kids that are coming from some of those schools that could potentially go, say, to Navajo, Kiva, or Pueblo if we were to have it at one of those schools. So we'd have to do some kind of cost-benefit analysis to see if opening too many programs will dissolve the programs, because we could see that occurring.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me.
Board Member Brown?
Is there anything in the Coronado learning community?
For comprehensive gifted?
Yeah.
No.
So we just aced those guys. It's just kind of an interesting deal that there's a blank spot. And is there any plan on examining, pursuing, or doing?
The history that I understand, Board Member Brown, is that years ago, the program actually began at Pima. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, Pima, and those children then would go to Mojave, and Mojave was the only school that offered the middle school, and I believe it was selected because it was more central to the school district. Then they opened Redfield, which ended up dissolving Pima over time. Redfield fed into Desert Canyon, but they still kept Mojave. So I know when I came 3 years ago, we had Mojave, Desert Canyon, and Redfield. It wasn't until a year ago that we opened Hopi, which then led to this year us opening Ingleside.
Any plans on getting down there?
I think we would have to close one of our current schools to open at Pima.
Well, the key is it's about numbers, and so we need that critical mass. If the kids test in there, we'll get a program opened. We just need to get that critical mass of kids to be able to qualify.
And I think, if I may, Board Member Brown, I think if we make some concerted efforts for cluster grouping or more effectively identifying some of our kids, we might be able to nurture them and reach out through our community specialists, our school principals and teachers to say, we have an excellent program for you, which, I will give, a public celebration to Mr. Chandler at Cherokee. When we met with the family a few weeks ago about a little boy, he said, while I would love this family to stay at my school, I know a better placement for this child is the comprehensive gifted program. He was very supportive of having to lose a family because he knew it was best for the child. So I think that's something that we need to think about. How can we have programs available to best support our kids?
But there is gifted services
yes.
in all schools. But what do we have, a 0.5 or something?
At Pima, we have a 0.5. At
Hohokam?
At Hohokam, it's a 0.5. At Yavapai is interesting. It's a 0.5, but they also get some additional funding from Carolyn Rep, so that becomes a 1.0. The same happens at Tonalea.
Ms. Perleberg?
I just wanted to speak because I had very personal experience with the comprehensive gifted at Pima. And there was, at that time, I can say, there was a lot of questions going around in the southern part of our district about how much buy-in there was with administrators and teachers with these children. Did they want them leaving their school to go to another school? and feeling that kind of competition between schools, that type of thing. Why would this teacher say to this very bright child, go to Pima instead? There was certainly that feeling among parents, and I just wondered in the South if that is, still a fear, if going forward. Or was it not found at Hopi, is, I guess, a good question.
That is a great question, Board Member Perleberg. When we opened Hopi, we knew we had a strong foundation of kids, children who would automatically be eligible for the comprehensive gifted program. I believe that first year in 5th grade we had 15 kids between the two grades. So we had a strong group right there, a core group. But I can parallel what you're mentioning, because often when we have families come on our tour, part of our application is gifted characteristics profiles from the current teacher, and parents are very nervous. They don't want to offend their current teacher or their current principal by asking for a recommendation to go to another school. So that sentiment of I don't want to have to leave my school is something that keeps people at their home school, even though their child could participate in another program.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the flip side of the question I just asked. So looking at your slide that you have, I think then the question begs is why, if we don't have the numbers to feed into Mojave, why do we then continue to have a program at Mojave when Ingleside is, I don't know, what, 5-6 miles away? Maybe a little further than that. And so I guess I would want to see for the 3 middle schools what the economics look like of having these programs at each of these middle schools. It would seem to me that consolidating Mojave and Ingleside would be more cost effective for the district. And I'm only putting that out there because of an upcoming discussion we're going to have in a bit on the budget.
Right. Yes, Board President Kirby, when we look at the numbers, we have been very fortunate that we have been able to maintain staffing. At Mojave, we currently staff with Mrs. McBride as our ELA social studies teacher, and someone like Mrs. Kaiser or Mr. Tavell, they teach a cluster class. So while they have gifted kids in their class, the rest of the students in their class are not identified as gifted. So it's kind of our quasi type comprehensive program there. But the children who are in the CGP all go into Mr. Tavell or Mrs. Kaiser's classroom. So we have been able to continue to make an effort to try to increase the numbers at that school through our outreach. But it would be a conversation for us to have with our community to see if families would consider going to another school. I can tell you that when we have a family who's been accepted and perhaps waitlisted, we reach out to them and say, your child has been waitlisted for 7th grade at Desert Canyon. There is space at Mojave. Are you interested? And sometimes they'll say, oh, let me go look at Mojave. I hadn't even thought about that. And so then we'll take them there. They meet the principal. They visit the classrooms. And once you meet Mrs. McBride or Mrs. Kaiser or Mr. Tavell, the families think, oh, my goodness, awesome. Sure, didn't even know this jewel was here. So it's, again, our responsibility to do a better job at communicating with the community what the school offers. So,
Questions? Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Item 10D, update on safety procedures.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Again, we have a great presentation. We are very fortunate that we do have James Dorr as our Chief of Security in the district. He came to us. He's done a great job. He's helped us implement some plans, design some programs, and initially people grumbled when James would come to them. And then after events started occurring, they're like, when you coming back? So we're very fortunate to have James, and he's going to share with you where we are in our current journey of getting our schools safe and secure.
Well, thank you, Dr. Peterson, for the kind words. Madam President, members of the board, and of course, Sandra. I am here tonight to speak and give a presentation regarding just an overview of our school safety, where we're at, and some of the actions that we do take to maintain a safe school environment. I'll start by saying that everything that we do is developed in partnership with our local, state, and federal agencies. So the plans and procedures that we have in place are not things that we have done strictly on our own. They're done in partnership with others. We do utilize the Federal Emergency Management emergency management cycle. So FEMA's cycle, which includes mitigation, prevention, preparedness, response, and recovery. And you can see it's kind of cyclical. That deals with how do we stop something from happening, prevent it from happening to begin with, but then be prepared to respond to it and recover from it. So I'll speak to some of these specific areas. I do point out that what we do is an integrated approach. There is no one piece that makes us safe. It is a complete picture that includes all of the services that our student services area has to offer through prevention and education there. One of those is our school resource unit. School resource unit is a very, very effective and valuable partnership for us in that they not only handle the law enforcement piece at our campuses, but they're also there as a role of a teacher, counselor, and role model. Point out that this is a little different than the average police officer that may be coming to our campuses from a patrol setting, in that these officers really do work very well to get involved with the students and build those relationships. It's a very valuable program for us. Another piece of that integrated approach deals with physical infrastructure. So we do try to be prepared by utilizing fencing, gates, access control, all of the items that you'll see as you go to the campuses. Through the last few years, we have been able to do some upgrading to our physical infrastructure, to include fencing at our high school campuses to shut off the back sides of our campuses, so to speak, to close them in. That way we create that safety throughout the course of the school day. We've upgraded fencing at several of our elementary schools, and Hohokam is currently in progress. The fencing will be upgraded there during this upcoming spring break. And that will make it so that all of our campuses are set up in such a way that visitors will be channeled through the front office and don't have just free access throughout the campuses during the school day. Some other upgrades that we've been able to do is we've rearranged some of our existing fencing and made it more conducive and safer for school evacuations, whether it be creating wider gate spaces as we've rearranged evacuation routes. That way it makes it flow a little bit better for us. We've upgraded our camera systems at our high schools, and we've upgraded our radio communications, the handheld radios that all of our administrators utilize to be compliant with FCC regulations. When we talk preparedness, it's also a cycle. And we start by talking about planning, building a plan. A plan, an emergency response plan, or ERP, is a written document. And it outlines kind of the roles and responsibilities for our personnel during an emergency or a crisis. But I'd like to point out that it's the process of building this plan that makes us prepared. The written plan itself does not make us prepared. I can go to one of the many companies or corporations that are out there offering their services and purchase an off-the-shelf plan, hand it to my administrators, and that does them no good. That does not help to prepare them. So our administrators have done a wonderful job through the years being actively involved in building their emergency response plans, and it is that process that truly makes them better prepared. We have 3 different levels of emergency response plans within the district. Our district emergency response plan is more of an overarching type document that helps to delineate when and what resources from a district perspective we send to schools during the course of events. Each school has their own individual emergency response plan that's customized for their campus. And then from that, each classroom has an emergency response guide that is a significantly smaller document that's geared towards teachers more as a checklist type concept. I point out that all of our plans meet or exceed the Arizona Department of Education's minimum requirements. And as we look at them and across the nation, we've utilized what would be considered best practice. So after we've built our plan, then we have to organize our people and make sure they have the right equipment to carry out the plans. And I say that safety is everybody's job. Every one of our 3,500-ish employees throughout the district It's everybody's job. But we've also then selected some additional personnel with specific roles to help during the course of emergency. I applaud our communications department. They've done a lot of work over the last couple of years to be able to give good, quick information to our parents, keep our parents informed in case something does happen. We work with our student information management group so that they're better prepared to do student-parent reunification. Every site and the district have employees that come together as an organization to be part of a site safety committee, and they look at things from as mundane as more of a risk management concept of, hey, there's a crack in the concrete and that may be a trip fall hazard and we need to work through that, to emergency preparedness. And each school and the district have assigned personnel that are part of an incident command team. And what the incident command team speaks of is utilizing the incident command system. Incident command system is a portion of the federal government's what's called NIMS, the National Incident Management System. And these systems came online shortly after September 11th and have made it that it's universal across the United States, that we're all using the same type of system, same language involved with that. Each one of our campuses has personnel selected to fulfill these roles, and at our district level we have personnel selected to fulfill those roles. Well, we can put our people together, but we got to train them. Every employee in the district receives basic emergency procedures training. At the start of the school years, most of our campuses are done in person within that 2-day window when teachers and staff return to campus before the start of school. Those that are not at that training then take an online course through our Moodle presentation that is specific to the emergency preparedness. And that is all in compliance with state law regarding that topic. Those that are selected to be part of the incident command system get additional training. They must take some independent study courses through FEMA. And then each year they also do some site-specific training on what it means to be part of that group. We do training specifically for not only CIMAR, but for some of our administration, for parent-student reunification process there, their procedures. Our high schools, our 5 high schools, are our primary relocation centers, and so the high school personnel receive additional training on what that means. And every half day or teacher in-service day, we bring our security officers together and provide them training as well. So we can plan for it, get our people ready, train for it, but then we have to test it. We have to exercise the plan. So at a minimum, every one of our schools must conduct an evacuation drill every month, and then they're mandated to conduct 3 lockdown drills per year. In addition, on top of that, then our administrators are involved in tabletop exercises through some of the regular admin meetings. So that gives them an opportunity to exercise the plan in a safe, friendly, conducive environment to think through problems and come up with potential solutions while utilizing the plan. Every time we exercise it, or every time we have something that occurs for real, we learn from it. We have to debrief those exercises or incidents and figure out what went well, what didn't go so well. Incorporate those lessons into our plans. As part of that, we're also, SUSD is a member of a emergency response plan consortium that involves membership from all over the state. We meet quarterly so that we can learn from each other. As I say, I like to beg, borrow, and steal from what others have done and or learned. And we're also a member of the Arizona Department of Education Safety Advisory Council, another great way for us to facilitate information sharing. So the question comes up is, what are we doing now? There's been a lot of question after the unfortunate events throughout our nation here recently. So one of the things that we are currently undergoing is a district-wide review of our policies and procedures at every one of our campuses. I'm meeting with each and every administrator, admin team at their sites, and we're looking at from head to toe. What are we doing good? What do we need to change? What we're finding is that for the most part, we're doing a lot of things very well. which is great. But as we see things that we think, well, maybe we need to reevaluate this, we're deciding, well, what things can we change now that don't cost us a dime? Maybe the concept of when do we open or close a gate? How do we make sure that doors close? Little things like that that don't cost us a dime. And then we're also identifying things that we may be able to fix physical infrastructure-wise within existing funding. It may be as simple as relocating an employee's workstation or turning it to face a different direction to better provide customer service for our visitors. We're also finding out, though, there are things that will take money to change from a physical infrastructure standpoint, and that's stuff that we'll have to budget for the future. So I hope that gives you a summary of kind of where we're at and what we're doing, and I'll answer any questions I can.
Thank you. Let's keep the trend going. Board Member Brown.
Real easy stuff, buddy. Cameras at all high schools. So who monitors the cameras and that kind of thing?
It's a great question, Madam President, Board Member Brown. And I'm a little hesitant as I answer this question in a public forum, but because I don't necessarily want the whole entire public world to know the exact.
Let me make it. Are there people on campus or off campus?
Oh.
Okay, maybe that's enough. And let me then ask, why are we limited to high schools?
Madam President, Board Member Brown, we are not. We do have surveillance camera systems at our high schools. Some of our middle schools, I say some, but I think actually all of our middle schools are coming online with surveillance camera systems as well. And a very small handful of our elementary schools have limited camera systems.
Do we anticipate having all campuses with cameras at some point?
Yes, as we rebuild the schools, we're able to put that infrastructure in place and take advantage of it. In some areas where we've had some high incidences, we've gone ahead and put some small systems in, but our plan would be to have some larger systems that are accessible, and as Mr. Dorr said, we are able to see those things both on campus and over the internet.
Now this is a weird one. So lockdown at the elementary schools, years ago there was a little safety, how do you frame that? Emergency kits in all the classrooms. Did that happen? Do we have emergency kits in all the classrooms?
Madam President, Board Member Brown, that answer varies from school to school.
That depending on facilities?
Correct. Several years ago, the district was able to purchase a certain number of emergency kits, but it was not enough for the approximately 1,600 classrooms we have throughout the district. That being said, many sites through their PTOs or their parent associations have actually helped to fund some of that, and some of the schools through their M&O have been able to help refresh some of those materials as well. But not every one of our 1,600 classroom has an emergency kit or emergency bucket at this point.
Is there access to shared stuff, or what do the classrooms do that don't have it?
Madam President, Board Member Brown, not necessarily shared access. Obviously, that depends on the physical layout of the campus.
Right.
Do the classrooms have adjoining doors, that sort of situation. We're certainly hoping that with all of the ongoing issues right now, that the federal government is able to put money back into their grant funding process that they have had in the past for school emergency supplies such as that, and then we would knock on their door and apply for it. But right, that's been a dry well.
Yeah, the unfortunate reality is I've been through that, and yeah, the little rascals, it's very stressful on them. Hey, thank you very much. I'm glad you're around, bud.
Thank you,
Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Dorr, I just wanted to reiterate what Dr. Peterson said. As a parent and a board member, I'm very pleased you're with us, and you seem to be doing everything. I can't begin to even think what else to do that you're not doing, and I just want to make sure you've got enough support, because this is clearly a, considering everything that's going on, it's a hot issue, and I'm hearing it a lot from parents. So, you know, please, I just want to make sure you've got enough support that you're not being, you have a lot of schools to oversee. So it's a comment more than a question, or maybe it is a question. Do you feel you have the support you need?
Madam President, Board Member Jackson, I have an excellent support structure through Dr. Peterson. He's been very, very supportive of me. Probably sick and tired of me coming to his office and requesting more and more and more. But our administrators, our site administrators also are doing a wonderful job. The reality is that they carry the brunt of the workload. They probably hate seeing me come in too as I look around the room, because I come in and then we have great conversation and I leave with giving them homework. So they do end up carrying out a lot of the workload. But yes, we have support. And right now we're getting a large outpouring of support from our parents, which is great. We need that.
Ms. Perleberg?
Thank you, Mr. Dorr. You're wonderful. Just one of Denny's dumb questions. I just want to add to that. In each classroom, I said I feel like as parents, and we should all know this, or whether this is the case, but I'm going to ask it anyway. In each classroom, can a teacher sound an alarm that goes through the whole school? If something is happening in their classroom immediately, can they alarm?
And Madam President, Board Member Perlberg, yes and no. Again, that's facility-based. From a real generic way of explaining it, we have a couple of different systems that are in place, equipment, manufacturers, and boxes, depending on the age of the school. And that answer comes to the type of equipment and whether or not it can be integrated with their phone systems. So the majority of our campuses, you can utilize any phone on campus to be able to get over the all-call system and request, or say on the all-call, we need a lockdown, everybody go. The teachers do not have at this point some sort of panic button or hardware of that type, but they're able to get onto a phone system to do that. The other piece of that is they can call the front office, and the front office gets onto the phone system, which quite frankly seems to be the more popular route, that our teachers feel, well, I need to call the office. We're definitely trying to empower them that, hey, we're all in charge of safety. And so anybody and everybody needs to feel comfortable to step up and fulfill that role.
Or they call 911 immediately.
Absolutely.
And I can tell you when that happens, because it happens sometimes by accident, the police not only respond very quickly, the dispatchers are calling to the front office of the school immediately, trying to find out if the front office knows of anything. So that information and that communication happens within seconds.
And to piggyback on that, our phone systems are set up in such a way that if a teacher dials 911, whether on purpose or accidentally, the front office phones will light up in such a fashion that our office administrators recognize, uh-oh, room 101 has called 911. So the administrative team is able to go there and find out what's going on too.
And that's in every school,
Yes.
that system. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Brown?
I just wanted to say I thought that was a wonderful question.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. I have no questions, but I just want to echo the sentiment that hopefully you've heard, that we all feel safer that our kids are in Scottsdale schools with you around. You've done a great job. Safety has always been a priority in SUSD, and I appreciate the fact that you're continuing to revisit, improve, and still shamelessly where you find opportunities. So thank you.
Thank you. It's definitely a team effort. I throw that out because it's all of our great employees that care, and that's why we can pay attention to safety. So, thank you.
The last information discussion item, item 10E, is a budget update.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. This evening, our CFO, Mr. Daniel O'Brien, is going to present an overview of kind of our next upcoming budget and just some items to think about as we move through this process. Again, what he's going to share with you is not something that we've been decided on. It's not cast in stone, but it's starting this discussion that is not going to be an easy discussion this coming year based on where we are and where we need to go.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson, Sandra. Again, as presented last week at the work study, what we've done is just expanded it with a little bit more information, a little bit more in-depth figures so that we can begin our discussion. This is just a brief excerpt from a few years ago that since 2000, Arizona has never ranked higher than 4th from the bottom in per pupil spending. We talk about it a lot, everybody knows it, but again, just a quick excerpt. This briefly just shows how we break out a little bit of our M&O budget. As you can see, approximately 87% of our M&O budget is in salaries and benefits. It is the largest, human capital is the largest portion of our budget, being the service-oriented business that we are. We have utilities about 4%, and then the others is some of our contracted services, our supplies, fuel for the buses, repairs for the facilities, and whatnot throughout the district. This right here just shows some of the major funding areas that we have. Obviously, I couldn't put all of them on here. We'd have about 150 of them on here, but we wanted to drop this in here as some of the bigger ones. The number that you see on the per pupil spending, I do want to note that that is all-inclusive. So that includes our state grants, our federal grants, our M&O budget. It is not just M&O. I don't want to run away and start calculating out our M&O and find out why we're short. It is an all-inclusive that we use. Again, just changing a little bit of the graph type, but illustrating here that $124 million approximately goes to staffing, taxes, benefits for employees, and again, overall M&O budget. Then you can see down, it goes down into those smaller departments. Department budgets are mostly our supplies for our schools. This breaks it out a little bit, again, just showing some different ways to break out our funding. Obviously, a little less than 69%, just short of 70% is our regular education. It is our biggest portion of our student population. Did show out there, one that sticks out there a little bit is special education. It is a large amount at 70%. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And then we break down into some of our transportation, K-3 override, our K-3 reading programs, additional monies that we got this year from the state. Special ed. We always talk about special ed. Special ed is kind of one of those unfunded mandates. You can see there, this is state M&O funding and our federal IDEA grant. We get approximately $6.2 million in revenue, and we spend about a little over $29 million. So there is a gap there that we do not receive due to the budget cuts with the state and not fully funding SPED, and then the IDEA federal grants going down over time. This real quick is just an illustration of our three groups and the salaries and the percentages based. So we have our certified staff, which is the majority of our teachers, classified staff, which is our facilities and our transportation and bus drivers, and then admin staff, which is, the admin staff is all admin staff, so it includes our principals, our assistant principals, psychologists, a lot of that admin at that site level. And that, obviously it is, the certified staff is the biggest portion of our employee base. It's the biggest portion of our salary budget, and then you have classified staff, and then there at the small end, our admin staff. We've talked about this, changed it up a little bit. We've talked about our historical tax rate is always the lowest compared to our peer group. Again, just shows a little bit how our assessed valuation has come up a little bit from the housing boom. Obviously, we've talked, Scottsdale didn't get hit as hard as some of the other areas within metropolitan Phoenix, but we did still get hit. But we've kept that tax rate going low, and we continue to keep it on that low end because that's important to our taxpayers, especially since we don't get state equalization and most of our funding comes from property taxes. So we're very, very concerned about that and making sure that we keep it low. M&O override, we all know, November 12th was not renewed. And here's some of the items that are built into that M&O override that money that now won't be there for next year is paying for. So just a list real quickly. So what are we looking at? Right here we give a brief, this current fiscal year 13, we have a little over $154 million. And then we've started to project out our fiscal year 14 and what we've done. And obviously it's a changing, ever-changing model right now with the legislature still going on and the bargaining and negotiations with the budget. Currently we started about $145 million, and that's based off of about 32,000 weighted student count. We are decreasing in ADM. We're not decreasing 656. That's the weighted amount. It's closer to about 450 and 500. But we are working on that every day and cleaning it up. And so that changes a little bit. And we make changes every time, but that's where we sit approximately right now. Through our reduced ADM, career ladder phase out that's continuing to go on, and the phase down of our M&O override, we have about a $9.2 million deficit. We have a little bit because as career ladder phases out, we phase out those stipends too. So you can see there at the bottom, we kind of add that back in. And then through our energy savings program, we save about $636,000 in our utilities, which is through our energies, our lighting retrofits, our solars and whatnot. So that adds a little bit to the budget, and so we come to a budget capacity, a negative budget capacity of about $8.7 million. Again, ever changing, but this is where it's looking at right now. A few expenditure increases that we're looking at. SPED and fuel contingency we're working on, and hopefully we'll not have to have those next year. Health insurance, we all know what's kind of going on with health insurance and the Affordable Care Act, and just the industry standards of rising anywhere between 8 to 12%, depending on where you're looking at. So we're estimating an increase of approximately $2 million to our health insurance cost. ASRS, or state retirement, is an amount that they set every year. It has come out that they're going to increase it just a little bit by about 0.4%. Again, the employees will pay a portion of that too. We pay 50% of it, and that costs us a little under $420,000. So that's an increased cost to the district. So, again, the governor last month put out her budget, and she had a couple different items, but the two specific items that are here for Scottsdale and for the M&O budget is, one, the performance funding. We hit the achievement award because of our A rating. We are an A district, and she has put out a max of $500. Well, that $500 is actually going to be phased in over 5 years, so it's not $500 right away. So if we take our score, and we do based off the preliminary schedule that we've gotten, we would get about, fully implemented in 5 years, approximately $5.2 million. Obviously, if our scores go up, we'd get a little bit more than that. But since it is a phase-in, we have to take a percentage of that. So that's where we get the $1 million, a little over $1 million. Some of the stuff that's still coming out is part of it's a reallocation of existing money, and 2/3 of it is new money. So taking a little bit of a conservative estimate, we're taking that we're going to receive those additional monies, not really the allocation. We're just going to keep the allocation instead of it being taken away because we're not a D or a C. And so you get a little under $700,000. Then we have the Common Core implementation, and that's approximately $40 million if it's approved. We have about 2.3% of the state ADM, so that'll be about $930,000. They have come out with a set number of about $37.17 per ADM, which would only change that number by about $10,000, so that number is relatively close. But again, it's ever evolving, and we get new information every week. So if we add some of that money back in and look at the overall items with the additional expenditures, we're looking at about a $9.5 million reduction. Again, ever changing. This is kind of that worst case, where are we going if we get some of the money back from the court decision for the 2% increase, or we get the increase next year, which I believe would be set at about 1.8 per GDP, then these numbers can start to look a little bit better. But again, we want to give those numbers to you. So with that, where do we go? And how do we look at it? Well, again, just a brief, quick, what does it look like real quick off the top? About 9.6. Again, it varies just a little bit. But we need a starting point. We need to know where we're going to start from, how we're going to get there. And so we've worked with SLT and LLT, and we've sent out emails of give us suggestions. We're taking every suggestions, and we've got them all sorts of them. But we need a starting point. So administration has worked through a starting point. And this is where we're at with our starting point. And so you can look at this list. I'm not going to go through it in complete detail. I'm pretty sure questions will be asked in just a moment. So kind of go through some. But this is our starting point. This is kind of where we want to look at. The couple things that I do want to point out. The items in red are those items that are tied to that M&O override. Again, M&O override funds very specific things based off the voter pamphlet and state law. When those money is reduced, the program needs to be reduced. So the items in red, the assistant principals, the specials, half of the specials in the elementary schools, those items in red are items that are tied to that M&O override specifically. And you can see some of the others. We have some high school items in there. We have the phased retirement, which we've discussed briefly, but it's phasing out some of the staff that's close to retirement to do a little 75% salary, which gets a savings. We're working on those items right now, and actually Friday is the deadline for getting some of that interest back to see what that's going to look like. And again, we've gotten a wide range of suggestions, and they are wide range. And so we wanted to put some other possibilities out there. Currently right now, these two slides have been presented to the Budget Committee. They were presented last week to the Budget Committee. The Budget Committee is working through those. Though they are also sending us ideas as we work through that Budget Committee process of ideas. And when we go back to our next budget meeting, which I believe is next week, we will start talking about some of those and possibly starting to prioritize some of these items. But here are some other ones. Salary reductions, again, on the previous salary you saw 1%, so for every 1%, you 2%, 3%, you just work through that. Substitute cost, some of that has to do with professional development and moving some professional development around and changing how the days look. But all these, again, everything's kind of on the table right now as we start. We have to have a starting point. So everything's on the table, and we start to just work through those items and see what there is. Some things, such as our full-day kindergarten. Our full-day kindergarten is funded by our K-3 override. That one's not on the table. Again, voter pamphlet, voter approved, state law says we have to fund that money per the voter pamphlet from several years ago. So full day kindergarten is one of those items, but there's very few that isn't on the table. And I'll take questions.
Okay, I'll start. Thank you for a presentation. Difficult conversation to have, but important to have and important to start having it now, so that we can get community input on where we go. The slide on the M&O override with art, music, gifted, co-curricular, and athletics. I have two questions. And I'll go ahead and ask them both because they're pretty easy. On the list that you showed of items that had already been quantified, first question is, help me understand how the elementary, high school, or elementary assistant principals feed to this list or tied to this. And then also, where is gifted on the laundry list of items since it was part of the M&O override?
Sure, absolutely. Madam President, great question. This is not the whole list. This is just a portion of that pamphlet and kind of where we started talking about where we could get cuts from. So that's where this came from. The elementary principals is something that the elementary principals have been added through that funding source over the years. And so it's an area where it can be backed out through that funding source. Again, you're right, gifted is not on here. Gifted can be on the list. Again, the list is exponentially long. And if that is something that administration of the budget committee through that process puts back on there, then that's something we'll allocate out, we'll cost out, and we'll put it on the table and start those discussions.
We also need to remember that the first year of this phase-out is 1/3 of the override. So there's still 2/3 of that M&O override that are being funded. So not everything in that pamphlet is up here right now because we still have, a couple years if we are not successful in renewing it again down the road. So we're looking at just 1/3 of the override right now being phased out, and some of these items equate to that 1/3.
So said another way then, specials on the list, it could be potentially phased out or at the gifted would be protected at the expense of specials, is another way to say that.
To a point, but also we have to remember that gifted education is also considered special education. And so we have some mandates and requirements because of that.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And the 1% pay reduction, is that just certified? Is it certified and administration? What does that 1% represent?
Yes, Madam President. That 1% pay reduction is across the board.
Okay.
So it's every personnel in the district. That portion of it right there is just M&O's portion of it, because obviously you have food service and some other federal grants where they're paid out of. But that is M&O's portion across the board. Classified, certified, admin, all the way across the board.
Thank you. Board Member Jackson.
This is very painful, obviously. I appreciate all the work that's gone into this. And I did want to, I see that we're not cutting class sizes despite how difficult this is, which I think everybody can agree is admirable and wonderful, frankly, considering how painful this process is. Will the Budget Committee be coming back, I'm showing my ignorance here, when will they be coming back with their recommendations?
Sure. Madam President, Member Jackson, currently right now, we are looking to have the Budget Committee have some recommendations to the administration and to the governing board by the end of March. We do have one meeting in April, and I set that meeting because the rumblings are kind of going to be that the legislature is going to take quite a while to work out some of those budget issues, obviously because of some of the reductions. But I'm hoping that we will have those recommendations by the end of March.
And again, part of this we have to remember that statutorily we have some notifications that we have to provide to staff in order to meet statute requirements. So that's why some of these things we will probably have to make decisions to maybe go a little deeper. And then once the budget is established from the legislature, if it takes, in some cases it's taken until May or June, then we can recall some things. Whereas if we don't meet those statutory deadlines, then we're in lots of trouble because we're committed to things that we have to fund that we may not have had to otherwise. So that's why this is one of those rocky things where you almost have to put the cart before the horse just because of the statutory deadlines.
Brown?
We are committed to trying to keep classroom intact as much as possible, keep all cuts. I think that's just important that everybody realizes we are going to try to do our best to keep cuts out of the classroom. The second thing is, person's much smarter than me, once brought up the concept, as we move along here, I would encourage all involved to take things off the list we've got everything on. Take things off as we move forward, as we realize, well, we certainly can't do that. We are taking this off the list, and let people know that. This creates such a sense of fear and anguish for folks that if there's any way we can eliminate some of that, I think it's important. Just let people know as we move along what we're doing. Thanks, Bud.
Could you just take a brief moment and talk about the composition of the Budget Committee, because I think that's important to highlight.
Sure. Thank you, Madam President. And Vice President Brown, just to kind of ask you, that's kind of where we're going is we do have a website that all minutes and items of the Budget Committee do go on, that's on SUSD's website. So we're communicating as much as we can and being as transparent as possible through this process. But I appreciate the advice and definitely look into that. The Budget Committee, Madam President, the Budget Committee is made up of a very large group of people. It's made up of every stakeholder within the district and within the district boundaries. We have teachers, we have specialist teachers, we have administrators, we have business leaders, we have community members who are just taxpayers. They don't even have a student in school or nothing. They just live in Scottsdale. So we have tried to grab, and we have several people from each of those groups. And we have gotten, well, you forgot this one. And so we're working some of those into the overall group so that we make sure we do get that. And we have that full group of all those taxpayers so that we do listen to all stakeholders and all taxpayers within the district and make sure that we do all these items as very hard as they are for the collective good of SUSD and not just going down one road, because obviously we're here for every student, every teacher, and every taxpayer of Scottsdale.
Dr. Peterson leaned over and reminded me you also have a student on the Budget Committee.
Yes, we do. We have a student from the Student Advisory. Thank you to Dr. Thomas here. So we are having every single, thank you for reminding me. We do have hopefully every possible group that we can.
Other questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have no action items. Do I have any requests for future action? Requests, any governing board reports? Board Member Brown.
I am just a talking rascal tonight. Real fast, I've had a great opportunity to work on the City of Scottsdale Town Hall Vision group, and the reason I bring that up is my very first day there, there was a wonderful panel of folks that were all being introduced, and I noticed a couple young people up there. Well, one of those young people being introduced to the 100 of us in this group was, and I'll get her name wrong, Ayanna Siders from Coronado High School. And I got to tell you that this young person presented herself so well. I know that she was very well received by all of the participants in this panel, or in this group, and I was very, very, very proud at that moment to be part of SUSD.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, then just I had the opportunity on Martin Luther King to attend a wonderful ceremony. This is the second year I've attended at Saguaro High School, where students from all over the valley filled the auditorium and listened to a keynote speaker and heard performances from Saguaro Voices and saw performances from the dance team. And then that fed into, in the evening, with a celebration with the City of Scottsdale, the Martin Luther King Dinner, Living the Dream. And I believe Board Member Jackson's son carried the flag at the beginning, and I also saw Ms. Perlberg there. And then I attended on January 18th an Education Means Business symposium with former board member Meyer, where the panelists were community representatives and from the business community discussing the skills gap in Arizona, and really trying to get at how do we prepare our children to meet the needs that are out there after they graduate. I also had the opportunity to spend some time with Senator Bob Worsley, who's from District 25 in Mesa, followed by the All-City Sports Banquet, the Fall Sports Banquet on January 28th. And if you haven't attended one of those, Ms. Perlberg was there with me as well. It's a fabulous event. And then the Saguaro Community Science Festival at Mojave with Board Member Jackson and Ms. Perlberg. And hopefully these get posted as that we're all attending, because we did have a quorum. We didn't talk, I promise. Okay. And it was just it was a nice way to showcase the new facility at Mojave, and it was just a great opportunity. I ran into so many old friends that I had not seen from Kiva and Pueblo and Saguaro. So it's just a great event, and all the communities are having those science nights. So I encourage you to attend if you can. Upcoming meetings, Tuesday, March 19th. We'll have a study session at 4 p.m. followed by a regular meeting. Oh, okay. Okay, and there's an executive session at 2:30 on the 19th as well. And then on Tuesday, April 16th, a study session at 4 p.m. followed by a regular governing board meeting. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Board Member Jackson, seconded by Board Member Sneed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0. Good night.